Good afternoon. Just doing a quick sound check. Can you hear us from the committee room? Thank you.
Good afternoon. During the declared emergency in the City of Toronto, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and a provincial order that limits attendance at public gatherings. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computers, a phone or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Any registered participants will be participating by audio only. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The committee considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that applies to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new jobs. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure you include your name, your address, and your email address, because Committee of Adjustment and the TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with our decision, it may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal, the OLT. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. Today, I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. When an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant will proceed with their presentation if required. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. When addressing the committee, please state your name and address and confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will present the application to the committee first. Please note, the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. If the application is substantially revised, the committee may decide to defer it to ensure the revised application is accurate, and all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then individuals in support of or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all other speakers are finished, the applicant agent has an opportunity to rebut issues raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Are there any declarations of interest of panel or staff for items in the afternoon time slots? Are there any deferral requests, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer?
Through you, Mr. Chair, see none for this afternoon.
Right. Are there any, I guess there's no files to be closed?
Through you, Mr. Chair, see none for this afternoon.
Okay. First application is, I gotta put my new glasses on. Number 20, 12 Northbrook Road. The purpose of this application is to construct a new two-story detached dwelling with an integral garage, a front porch, a rear basement walkout and deck, and a rear second-story balcony. The existing one-story detached dwelling will be demolished. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant and staff report from Urban Forestry. Parisa Amiri.
Yes. Hi, this is
Hi.
Parisa Amiri.
Can we have your name and your address for the record, please?
This is Parisa Amiri. I'm the applicant and the architect on this application. My address is 50 Woodville Avenue, East York, Ontario, M4K2J6.
Okay. That last part where you gave us your address was very good because before you were a little faint. So we need a presentation from you today because we have opposition. So would you please proceed? Thank you.
Sure. May I have the site plan on the presentation? Yes. This is this new construction that we are proposing to build. My client wants to have two-story with integral garage, and it has rear balcony on the second floor, deck, and front porch. We are respecting to the side setback on the north side, and we are requesting for 30 centimeters side setback to the south side, but it's a half of the length of the south wall. And the rest actually is 1.22 meter, which is more than the bylaw requirement. And we are requesting for height variance. Actually, we are asking for total height variance and main wall height variance, as well as the floor space index, which we are asking for 0.69% of the lot area. Based on the design and the research that we have done in that neighborhood, we came up with the density that most of the new built houses are around the range of 70% of the FSI, and this little pocket is very close to Cosburn, and below the Cosburn, everything is 75%. Even with 69% FSI, we are not a huge, we are not proposing the huge building. It's only almost 2,300 square feet, which is very similar to the smaller lots on like Cadorna Street, or lots which are at 75% of the FSI. And in terms of the side setback, that we are requesting, it's only 30, as I said, it's only 30 centimeter, and it's half of the wall of the, half of the length of the wall of the south wall. In terms of the height variance that we are requesting, it's within a range of the, committee approval for this neighborhood in total, which we are asking 0.5 meter for the total height, and we are requesting almost 1.8 1.18 meter for the main wall height, which is under the slope roof. And we don't have any lot coverage variance. We don't have any depth and landscaping variance. And I'm ready to answer any question if anyone has.
Okay, any questions, panel? Okay. Vidiha Yilmaz.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Hello. Hi. I just wanted to make sure you could hear me. Yes. So my name is Vidia Yilmaz. I reside at 4 Northbrook Road, just a few doors down of the proposed build. My issue is strictly with the proposed height of the new home. It is a significant difference. I don't believe half a meter is minor. I think visually it would be significantly higher than the surrounding homes. And I'm just worried about potentially another eyesore of a monster home in the area. I take great pride in my community and my street, and I'm just worried that the height being half a meter above the bylaw is going to be, as I said, visually not appealing.
Are those your submissions?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Panel, do you have any questions? Okay, no questions. Louis Tullius.
Louis Tullius, 10 Northbrook Road, M4J 4G1. I'm calling on behalf of myself. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Louis Tullius, 10 Northbrook Road, M4J 4G1. Currently calling on behalf of my mother and myself, that are current owners of 10 Northbrook Road. My problem is that height restrictions are completely blown out of proportion, especially the side exterior walls going up basically 1.2 meters beyond what the bylaw states. And also the max area of the dwelling at almost 100 square meters, it's almost going up. This is huge. And no one on that street, even the two-story buildings that are currently there, have a front garage just like this. And the same as 4 Northbrook Road, you know, it's pride of the neighborhood for this matter. And also, it's a privacy issue for the back terrace on the second floor. So that means they have full view of my mother's backyard. You know, like when these were one-story buildings back in the 80s, nobody had this stuff. So my other concern is once construction begins, because this is a new build, not a reno, is what damage would they do to other buildings considering the width of this building is going to be extended? Like there's a million questions, and I completely outright, you know, disagree with this plan. The other questions I have are, you know, is the walkout in the back, is that going to become a basement apartment? Is this still considered a two-story building, considering that the garage is kind of ground level, but not? Like, there's too many questions. I don't agree with this building at all. It's too big, and it doesn't fit the neighborhood.
Okay, panel, do you have any questions? Lisa?
Yeah, I was sort of along the same point you raised of the garage. I did notice that some of the other two-story new builds did not have the integral garage. And how do you think this changes in terms of how this will fit in with the other new builds having the garage?
Sorry, this question for me.
Yes, if you can answer it. I mean, I just wondered what your thoughts are of the garage and how that'll impact.
Okay,
you know,
let's just say my mother's house. Okay, our house, 10 Northbrook Road, will be situated between two big buildings now. Okay, these buildings were designed in 47 as post-war buildings. Now, my concern is 8 Northbrook wasn't allowed to have a garage anymore because they well exceeded the area squared. So he was not allowed to put that in. And that's about 15 years ago today. I've seen maybe one or two other buildings that have front garages that are in the East York area, around that area of Dieppe, Michael Garrett, all that. And I just don't see how they were approved. Maybe no one had any complaints about it, but I certainly do, because this is a massive house. And when we talk about variations, I'm an engineer. When you look at variations, you're going by not 1.2 meters or 1/8 of what is allowed. You go by like 0.2, 0.1, you break it because there's no other way of doing things. This is disregard for this area, or disregard for bylaws. Like look at the total area of the dwelling. Like it's a monster. Was this in Toronto, when Toronto planning back in 47, was this in mind? When they were building that part of the city? Sorry, it wasn't even part of Toronto back in 47. It was its own borough. So, you know, when you have to deal with people that want to do this, that's fine. But stay within the limits. They're building into their driveway. So what happens if they all of a sudden turn this nanny suite or whatever it is that's going to be in the basement into a rental income property at the bottom? That means someone's going to keep walking on my mother's right away, which is theoretically her property, to gain access to their basement apartment. So, you know, like, and they're going to be constantly walking in front of my mother's window. That was never designed to be like that. It was designed to be a driveway for a car to egress and exit from its own garage.
Just not to interrupt you, sorry, but in terms of that, are you saying those other houses aren't built over the driveways? Like, it's hard to tell.
Exactly. All on that street of Northbrook all have access to their driveways. That means a car can pass to the back, right? So there is nothing on that street that has a front garage at this point in time. Now, I probably have seen one in the area that has been allowed to do that. Maybe, but I'm pretty sure I haven't seen that yet. Like, especially on Northbrook. So, you know,
I think that answers.
All right.
I was just curious as to how that changes the garage changes the face of the house compared to the other new builds. But it sounds like you're saying it goes over the driveway.
Yeah. When we're talking about new builds, most of the houses that have been built up that are in the vicinity of 10 Northbrook Road were not new builds. They left 2 existing walls up and were considered a renovation. Am I wrong to assume that? Because because right now I'm just looking at plans that I was sent, okay? Even on existing maps of Toronto, basically most of the new builds, with quotations I'm saying this, are not even shown on this map. Like, right now I'm looking at 8 Northbrook, which has been changed. The changes don't even seem like they're there, because it definitely has changed. There's no garage at the back of 8 Northbrook anymore, but it has it on your site map. So these are not variations. I'm sorry, they're not variations. Like, variation is minor. This is major. And nobody has front-facing garages at the front of the building integrated into the building in that neighborhood.
All right, thank you. Carl?
Mr. Chairman, my comments are probably better addressed to the applicant.
Okay.
Yes.
Parisa Amiri.
Yes.
Yeah, so can we have your comments on your opponent's comments?
Do you want me to continue, or someone has a question for me?
No, we want you to
Okay.
comment on what the neighbors have just said.
Yes. I can address both neighbors' issue. First of all, in terms of the height variance that the first neighbor mentioned, which is 4 Northbrook Road, this these are that we are requesting is within the limit of the bylaw, and the concern for you, for Northbrook especially, is very, very minor, because she's a few doors down, and if she's concerned about the shadow and this kind of stuff, it's not the case. And I cannot go back to the building that has been approved, or on the Northbrook Road, because there are many 2 stories on the Northbrook Road. They got approved probably previous years, and I don't have the record which one has the which kind of a height, and they went to the committee or they didn't. But there are many 2-story buildings on that Northbrook Road. And in terms of the concern that 10 Northbrook Road has regarding the garage, I know there is no integral garage on that little street on 12 on Northbrook, but there are integral garages in that pocket. As I wrote in my cover letter, 78 Lankin Boulevard, 7 Derwin Road, 24 and 26 Alton Road, 24 Derwin Road. In those little pocket, and even on the Cadorna Street, between Plain to Cosburn, between Coxwell to Donland, there are new houses with the integral garage. It's not that there is nothing over there. And above Plain, there are still few houses that I've seen and that I'm aware of that they have integral garages. Mostly, many houses with the, like since last few years, they want integral garage in East York. I understand previous houses in East York, they all mostly had front yard parking or detached garage, as my house has the detached garage itself. But new owners, they are requiring, especially for the new build, to have the integral garage, and they are requiring to have the bigger backyard. That's why they don't want to have the detached garage. And this is a private property. We are not private property. We didn't overbuild on the driveway. It's not a mutual driveway. It's a private driveway. And the client wanted to have a storage and the garage all together. That's why we didn't go with the detached garage, and it's an integral garage that they require to have in their house. In terms of the basement unit is not going to be converted to the another unit secondary suite, because it doesn't have any kitchen in it. And mostly when we have walk-up in the basement, the building department requires us to write this is only as part of the single family house, and the owner needs to testify they are not going to use it as a secondary suite. In terms of the construction, the little area that portion of the garage that we are requesting for 60 centimeter, the foundation is only 4 feet down, and as well as the rest of the house. And 4 feet down, the grade doesn't need a massive excavation. And the rest of the house is 1.22 meter away from the south line and 91 centimeter away from the north side. So is there any other question?
Yes, Lisa?
Yes.
It's more of a comment. So you, perhaps I can make it into a question, but you have no other stats for properties on the street. There's a number of newer, I call them new builds, but perhaps they're renovations, whatever they are. You have no stats for height or FSI for those?
The FSI for that little pocket? For that,
yes.
Northbrook?
For Northbrook, yes.
Most of them, no, I don't have the stats for the
You didn't
Northbrook.
look those up when you saw the newer construction. For me personally, that would have been helpful, but I mean, I understand you found others in somewhere in the vicinity, but if I'm looking at the character of the street, for me, it would have been helpful to know that. So I just wanted to confirm you didn't have that information.
Yeah, the street is major renovation. They kept the walls up and they built on top of it and behind it. Usually, most of them are around between 60 to 70.
It just would have been helpful if there was information on the sizes, if they went to committee, what that would have been. So I'm just making a statement.
Okay.
Right. Any further questions, comments? Do we have a motion? Carl?
Are we in committee, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have Google up on my computer right now, and it confirms that there are no integral garages on this section of the road on either side. And I think that's a big issue here because every property has a substantial landscaped frontage and then a small driveway along the side to get access to parking. The idea of an integral garage, I would argue, is inconsistent with this particular street. The fact that the owner has examples, I think, are irrelevant because they're a great distance from this street. One of them that's cited is on a street that I'm very familiar with and has been the subject of constant complaints since the day it was built. In addition to the fact that it's an integral garage, it's a double integral garage with the result that almost the entire frontage of the property is paved. Notwithstanding the fact that the applicant in her letter indicated that she's having a smaller driveway, it's still 12 feet wide and it's a double car garage. I would argue that that's completely inconsistent with the pattern of development that is on this street. And further and finally, if there was not an integral garage jacking the building up in the air, I don't think you'd have the height variations that are generating the variance requests for height. So all things considered, Mr. Chairman, I think this is a very ill-advised application and I will not be able to support it.
Yeah, Lisa?
Just to echo on Carl's comments, I also will not be supporting the application. I do take issue with the integral garage in this case, and as sort of one of the neighbor had raised it as well. And I do believe that when the integral garages, not in all cases, in some cases are proposed, it does increase the FSI of the, and the height. So I did note that the other newer properties, renovations, new builds, infills, whatever we're going to call them, because I don't know exactly what they are. None of them had integral garages, and none of them, all the driveways were left, I guess, free of encroachment so that there was more space between the houses. So I do feel the integral garage in this case does have an impact on the variances, and I think this will look out of keeping with what's currently on the street. So I will not be supporting it either.
Joanne?
There is a side integral garage on the property on the corner, but nothing on this stretch. It's unfortunate that we don't have some statistics with respect to some of those renovations or new builds, because some of them, especially with respect to sidewall height and FSI, because some of them do look substantive, but I have no way to assess that. I think that without that information, and because of the integral garage and that not being characteristic of this street at all, or even the broader context, I can't support the application.
Larry?
Yeah, I'm not as fussed as my colleagues are about the integral garage. I think this is a street in transition. We've got 3 small one-story bungalows in a row and a host of other new builds along both sides of the street. Some of which look, I mean, it is difficult to make a one-to-one comparison, but some of them certainly look like they have a half-story basement that emits out of the ground and 2 full stories above it. So I'm not sure that this proposal is terribly inconsistent with others on this street, and which is clearly going through fairly substantial transition. So I'm not as fussed about this application as my colleagues are, and I can support it, but I'll leave it for the vote.
Yeah, it seems to me somehow or other Integral Garage has got a bad name somewhere. Maybe it's from that area on Manor Road or something where they got a whole big petition against, they got a bylaw passed, say you can't have an Integral Garage. But actually the Ontario Land Tribunal in one of the appeals of some of the bylaws said there's nothing wrong with integral garages. And I agree with Larry. I'm not so fussed about integral garages, and it seems to me that the requests for height, et cetera, are not excessive at all. So I'm not opposed to this application. But let's have somebody make a motion, and let's deal with that way. Carl?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that the application be denied.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Lisa? All right, all in favor of the motion to deny the application? All opposed to the motion to deny the application? The ayes have it. The application is denied 3-2. Number 21, 126 Belize Drive. And the purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2-story detached dwelling by constructing a 3rd-story addition with a rear balcony, a 1-story rear addition, and an enclosed front porch. With this application, we have materials submitted by the applicant, and we have 12 form letters in support. Ms. Chu?
Good afternoon. I'm Peggy Chu, 124 Merton Street, Suite 505, Toronto.
Okay, so, Ms. Chu, do we need an application, a presentation panel? Okay, Ms. Chu, we're going to take it into committee and discuss it. Do you have anything you want to say to the committee before we go into committee?
No, only if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. All right, panel, you have any questions, comments? Carl?
Mr. Chairman, I think this is an excellent application, and I would like to compliment Ms. Chu on particularly the supplementary material we received last night. It was very helpful to put the site in context, and therefore to put the built form that we have before us also in context. This particular site has a variety of densities and built forms around it. I think that what is being proposed is clearly consistent with that variety. There is nothing that I can see that is out of place or problematic. I very much support the application, and I would like to recommend or move approval. And I don't know, there are no agency comments, so without condition.
All right, do we have a seconder? Joanne, all in favor? Have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, number 22, 241 CEDARVALE Avenue. Purpose is to alter the existing 1-story detached dwelling by constructing a front 2-story addition, a complete 2nd-story addition, and a rear 2nd-story balcony. Also to establish a parking spot in the front yard. With this application, they have materials submitted by the applicant, reports from planning and urban forestry, 13 form letters in support, in opposition from 2 addresses on CEDARVALE. Okay, now. Jonathan Benskowski,
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
good afternoon. Can we have your name and your address, please?
Jonathan Minskowski, 301 Keewatin Avenue.
Okay, can we have your brief presentation? We have one person in interest and one person in concern. So I don't know whether that's opposition or not, but we better take it as opposition and let us have a presentation.
Yes, just first of all, I would like to just outline that we did make 2 changes to the proposal. One dealt with an increase of the front yard setback. This is after the public notice went out. The second change is to recess the second floor balcony, which I will review throughout my presentation. So if we could
tell us which variances are affected.
Yeah, variance number 1 increased from 37.3% to 40.6%.
Okay.
And variance number 7 was reduced to 7.25 square meters from 9.8 square meters.
Say that again.
Variance number 7 has been reduced from 9.8 square meters to 7.25 square meters.
Okay.
So we can bring up the support material I filed, please. So this is somewhat of a unique application in that this is entirely a front addition. There is no addition to the rear main wall of the dwelling. There is a second story proposed within the side walls of the north and the south above the existing dwelling, as well as an addition to the front of the dwelling. As we can see from the picture on the screen here, this is somewhat of a anomaly on this street where the setback of the existing dwelling is built considerably to the rear of both the dwelling to the south as well as to the dwelling to the north. The next thing I'd like to outline here before I move forward is there is an existing front parking pad. The current parking solution at the property is in front of the front main wall, not on the city boulevard, requiring a permit. The proposal before you today requests that same parking solution to be behind the city boulevard, but in front of the front main wall. So the 5.6 meters is entirely proposed on private property. So it's essentially a continuation of the parking solution that's at the property today. And if we go to page 3, please. What I've done here is I've basically taken a couple of the aspects of the proposal just to highlight what we have. So what we see there, the green is the existing dwelling that sits on the property today. The red is the proposed front addition. So even with the proposed front addition, it is still to be built behind the front main wall of both the existing dwelling at number 243 to the north, as well as the front main wall of the existing dwelling at 239 to the south. Again, I have highlighted a couple of portions just dealing with the parking solution that shows that the parking pad is proposed to be entirely on private property and is also proposed to utilize the existing curb cut that is there today. There is no expansion of the proposed curb cut. I know one of the neighbors did express concerns of that city tree where we see the 25 diameter radius kind of at the northwest corner. Again, that is the existing driveway that is there today. Turning specifically to the variances itself, again, somewhat of an anomaly in that this is a front addition. So any impact to the rear that's extending into both the properties as well to the north and to the south is a situation that is already there. Again, albeit a 1-story bungalow, but the proposal before you today is for a very modest flat roof dwelling at 7.85 meters, which is well below what a pitched roof dwelling would be permitted on the dwelling had it been a pitched roof itself. In terms of the balcony at the second floor, we have recessed the balcony from the rear in, as well as offering privacy screens at both the north as well as the south side of the property. Dealing with the side yard setbacks, the side yard setback request is for the front addition. Again, the second floor addition over the existing portion maintains the existing side yard setbacks at both the north as well as the south. And then I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have right now.
Yes, Joanne.
Just one clarification. When I looked at the revised zoning notice, it suggested that your front yard landscaping area was going to change to 44.6. Because the notice said 40.06. Is it going, you're improving it to 44.6?
Correct, through you, Mr. Chair. That is correct, Ms. Hayes.
Thank you.
So are you going to be digging up the front yard to get some soft landscaping? Because from the pictures, I don't see any soft landscaping at all.
There will be some additional, yes, correct.
Yeah.
And we could go back to the presentation materials, which really shows basically almost an entirely front yard hardscape, save for that small green space. But again, coming forward to again, maintain a more consistent streetscape feel. The rear wall is not to change. So by bringing that building forward, we're actually looking to enhance that streetscape and really improve upon a very odd situation that you really don't see a lot, which really is not the intent of any zoning bylaw.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Mr. and Mrs. Nikolova.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, so our concerns again is addressed in
Can we have your name and your address, please?
Yubisha Nikolovsky and Martina Nikolova, 239 Cedarvale Avenue, the neighbors to the south of the proposed property.
Okay, can we have your comments, please?
Our comments are mostly to do with the height of the building, to be honest. It is to do with the flat roof and the fact that it is gonna extend. The proposed drawings here show a height of each floor to be 11 feet, if I'm not mistaken, which seems to be a little bit more excessive than what other properties have on our street. And our concern has to do with casting a shadow, hiding our sun, especially in the afternoons in our backyard. We have quite a lot of vegetation, and we are afraid that because of the height of the building, we might not, a lot of the vegetation might not survive.
So, okay, are those all your comments?
That's our primary concern, and the other concern would be, again, with the extension at the front of the building. It is going to be, very close to our setback. Again, I'm not sure if, what the variance says for this proposed property, but again, we feel that, even coming towards the street, they are increasing the footprint of the house. I think it's more than 40% as opposed to the total area. So again, I'm not sure if that's needed. There is quite a lot of space in the back of the house, as you guys can probably see from the bungalow pictures. And again, we're questioning the need to do an excavation at the front to that extent.
Okay, any questions,
Thank you.
panel? All right. Paul Cross and Lisa May Taylor.
Hello, it's Paul Cross. I'm at 243 Cedarvale Avenue, and my wife Lisa May Taylor. Our concerns, first of all, I'll say that we appreciate that the applicant has addressed our issue, our concern about the fact that the existing driveway pad on their lot approaches onto ours, and they volunteered to fix that. Also, the proximity of the fireplace vent that we proposed on the north side of their building, when it's already so close to the lot line, they volunteered to extend that up through the roof instead, and we appreciate that. I want to say that we have no objection, no concern whatsoever about the parking there. There has always been parking at that house, and we do not feel that they should lose their parking or be restricted to not be able to have parking. Regarding the size and coverage of the house, we would defer to the committee's expertise, but it does seem to us that considering that the existing one-story house already extends considerably further back than either of the houses on either side, that the proposed extension out to the front is quite long. It's about 8 meters, I believe. And considering that now there's a one-story, relatively short building between us, we'd now be looking at a longer 2-story, very large building between us, building rather than blue sky kind of thing when we look at it. So I think those are concerns I recognize and appreciate. Also, they've suggested reducing the size of the proposed balcony at the back, but those are our concerns, I think. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions, panel? Mr. Benskowski?
Now into the rear. Sorry, can we zoom into the rear right where we are right now? So to deal with the idea of it now being a 2-story, what we see here is we see the 10-foot. I'm sorry, I'm pointing at my screen like you can see me, which I find myself often doing. We can see that the second floor is actually recessed 10 feet back from the existing rear wall. So that impact of that flat roof only extends to the portion 10 foot set back from the existing first floor. So if we were to go back to that side elevation that we had on there a couple of seconds ago when the owner of the dwelling to the south was speaking, we'll see where that impact of the height is actually recessed back. Right there is perfect. So that is actually recessed 10 feet in from the existing rear main wall of the existing dwelling. So that 10 foot there mitigates any type of impact. And again, by setting it in and offering the privacy screen, we're mitigating that. I think we somehow and sometimes get hung up on the impact of a flat roof. The actual mass of a flat roof in this case would be a reduction from the zoning bylaw permission of an 8.5 meter pitched roof or mansard style roof with a 7 meter main wall height. So any impact felt at the rear is mitigated by that existing rear wall being set back 10 feet into that proposed second floor that is there today.
Okay, panel, any questions? Okay, let's go into committee. You have comments? Larry?
Sure, Chair, thanks. I'll start. I did note, I was looking at the lot fabric along the street, and it is quite an unusual one in the sense that there is no uniformity along frontage. There are several, oddly, houses that are deep into the lot and set way back. So I don't find it surprising when we see a proposal like this, which to try and take advantage of those unusual lot configurations that they suggest doing an addition out the front. And even with the addition out the front, it doesn't even come out as far as the adjacent neighbors. So I'm not uncomfortable with the idea of coming out the front. I am sympathetic to the agent's point about the balcony in the rear. So it kind of mitigates a little bit of the massing towards the rear with a screened balcony back there. I was originally concerned about the length and the depth, but again, given the unusual lot configuration, I didn't have any problems with it. There is an issue about planning staff's recommendation for refusal here. I think the agent tried to address it by suggesting that the parking pad as proposed is wholly on private property, which is interesting that planning staff are still recommending refusal. So I'm a little bit perplexed about that. I'd be interested in hearing my colleagues' thoughts on that one. On the front yard landscaping, I'm of the view that if they're going to be excavating, just excavate the entire driveway and put permeable pavers down there. That will help deal with, I think, some of the concerns around soft landscaping in the front. But, I understand the neighbors' concerns, particularly when there's a small house that's been there for a long time and someone wants to put something larger on it. But I think in the context of what we see generally across the neighborhoods, this is not out of character or out of keeping with the type of applications that we see, subject to those modifications. But I'd be interested in hearing my colleagues' thoughts about the planning staff recommendation.
Yes, Carl.
I agree with Larry about the proposal. I don't find the building itself out of keeping, and the applicant has done a good job about privacy, screening the back balcony and so forth. Again, I've got Google up, and it appears that the property immediately adjacent, now I think it may be on the south, has a front yard parking space. I'm wondering if we could go out of committee and if the applicant could confirm that, because I'm personally not that concerned with the front yard parking space, which puts me in opposition with the planning department on this one. But most people are parking on the driveway leading to garages anyway. I don't see that there's a huge abnormality in having a front yard parking space in this location, and it is all on private property. So I don't have difficulty with it. In the Google photographs, the house on one side has got a car parked in a driveway beside it, and the house on the other side has got a car parked in the driveway that leads to the front door, which seems to me to be rather similar to what the applicant is asking for. So in answer to Larry's question, I don't have as much concern as the planning department does about that issue.
Joanne, you had a question or a comment?
No, I was just going to say I didn't understand the concerns outlined in their report. When I looked at the street, there's all kinds of parking.
Yeah.
There's curb cuts. There's one almost immediately across the street where it almost looks like there's nothing left, but like there's the car and the sidewalk. So I didn't understand the concern outlined by planning in the context of what's already on the street. So as a result of that observation, I wouldn't have a problem with the parking that's being proposed here, but would mirror Larry's thoughts with respect to, reconstructing it with permeable pavers to have the most advantage possible.
To build on what Joanne just said, the house I think that you're talking about is 246, and the car is parked immediately adjacent to the front wall of the house and takes up the entire front yard, and it appears it accessible through a curb cut. So I also have some difficulty with the planning report.
So I think, because I know that on the street I used to live on, one of our neighbors wanted to put a parking pad in front because it was the only house in the street that didn't have a garage or access to a garage. So and the planning department said nobody had front yard parking, but everybody parked in their driveway in front of their house. So I think they look and say, where's the parking? And the parking's supposed to be in the garage at the back. For the most part, nobody could drive their car down the driveway because it was too narrow. So they all parked in front, but those aren't, in the planning department's opinion, I think, not an official parking space. So that's why, Joanne, when you see cars parked in front, that's not an official parking spot. So I think that's part of what the planning department is saying. But I don't have any problem with front yard parking, particularly when everybody's parking in front anyhow. So somebody make a motion, Larry?
Sure. I think the consensus is that we're comfortable with this application, so I will move approval of this proposal, subject to forestry condition number 1, and I think that's it. And I'll just leave it as that.
As amended.
As amended. Thank you very much, Chair.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Did you want to add your condition about permeable pavers?
Thank you. Yes, and that the driveway, the entire driveway, be constructed with permeable pavers.
Would you be open to a friendly amendment? It appears that the back deck or the back balcony was the subject of some discussion with the community. And just to secure that, I'm wondering if we might tie the tie the approval to the plans because that indicates the size of the balcony and the fact that it's screened.
Yes, I did notice that it was shown as being screened on the plans, but yeah, happy to tie it to that plan.
Okay, seconder? Carl, all in favor? You have your approval, thank you. Number 23309 Coxwell Avenue. The purpose of the application is to construct a rooftop deck and a vestibule staircase from the second level to the roof to access the rooftop deck. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, correspondence from planning, 8 form letters in support and opposition from 307C Coxwell Avenue. Mr. Wang.
Hello, my name's David Wong, and I live at 272 Indian Grove in Toronto, and I am the authorized agent of the owners.
All right, can we have your presentation, sir, because there is opposition.
Sure. The goal of the project is to essentially increase their usable outdoor space, and it's on a very tight site. There is directly to the south a right-of-way to access properties directly to the east, which front on what would potentially be a back lane. And directly to the south, there is a large building which exceeds the proposed addition in its totality. So what we proposed with a small vestibule is to be very sensitive to the row of existing two-story buildings now, and to continue that existing fabric, we minimize the footprint of the proposed vestibule, which is essentially the access point to the roof deck. So much so that when you look at the front of the building along the streetscape, you will not be able to see because of the angle that you'll be looking up toward the roof and over the proposed vestibule. So the only time that it will ever be visible along with the roof deck is when you're looking at it from the void space, which is the right-of-way access to the properties behind the house currently. So we've been also very sensitive to have a trellis in the part that's closer to the front of the property as a sheltered area, which will house a lounge, and then the smaller portion, which has the setback required, as well as the other house to the north, will have a small dining table. And so they basically prefer to use the space for their own privacy and outdoor and within the sort of urban neighborhood. So we've been very sensitive to reduce the profile to just the outline of the house. It is slightly set back and contains, so that angle there, if you look at the section, so somebody looking from street level, we've been very sensitive to basically draw a line from the sidewalk to the pitch of that roof at the dormer, the rear of the dormer, and so that it actually looks out over, and so that will never be visible. So in the existing context of the street and the fabric, it won't disrupt any sort of visual. You won't know that it's there until you actually see it from the side. And even then, we'll try to blend it in with similar siding and the similar coloring to the existing house currently.
Okay, any questions, panel? Okay. Mr. Novikov, Mrs. Novikova.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I tried to contact them through email and phone, but I couldn't reach.
Okay, so they're not on the line?
No.
Okay, all right. So, panel, we don't have any opposition present. Do you have any questions of the applicant or comments, or do we have a motion? Carl?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is a very sensitive application, as the architect indicated. He's gone to great pains to integrate an outdoor living space on the roof, terraced, and to not have it overpower the street. In fact, as he indicated, and he's right, I don't think you can even see it from the street. You can see it from the side and the back, but it is in no way overpowering. I don't think the variances are out of line with what exists in the community. I don't think the final solution is going to have any negative impact on adjacent neighbors or the community. I would like to move approval of the application subject to, there's a planning condition dealing with the screening of the substantial deck on the top, or the purpose of the application, subject to the condition from planning that the upper deck be screened.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Lisa, all in favor? Have your approval, thank you. Number 24, 548 Victoria Park Avenue. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling by enclosing the front porch. With this application, I have material submitted by the applicant and correspondence from planning. Jennifer Haynes.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Haynes, and I live at 548 Victoria Park Avenue.
Okay, so Ms. Haynes, we have no opposition. I don't think we need a presentation. Is there anything you would like to say to the committee before we go into committee?
No, but happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Panel, any questions, comments, a motion? Yes, Joanne?
Thank you. I think this is indeed a minor application. It's not unprecedented in the neighborhood. I think it's simply enclosing the front porch. I would move a motion to approve the application, but tie it to the plan numbers as outlined in the planning staff report.
All right, thank you. Second? Lisa, thank you. All in favor? You have your approval?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Number 26, 40, whoops, sorry. Number 25, 85 Silverthorn Avenue. Purpose of the application is to legalize and to maintain the existing one-story ancillary structure, a storage shed in the rear yard of the property. And with this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. Kimberly Harrison McMillan.
Hi there. Good afternoon, Chair and committee members.
Yes, could we have your name and your address, please?
My name is Kimberly Harrison McMillan of Design Plan Services, located at 900 the East Mall in Toronto, M9B 6K2, and I'm the agent for the property owner of 85 Silverthorn Avenue.
All right, thank you. We have no opposition. I don't think we need a presentation. Do you have anything you want to say to the panel before we go into committee?
No, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Joanne?
Just looking at, just trying to get the drawing number here, just a moment. Sorry, the site plan. There seems to be an awful lot of hard, concrete patio, concrete walkway. The concrete patio also has a deck. And looking at the variance for landscaping, is there any opportunity to improve the condition at all?
So
is it providing patios for separate units? Is that what this is?
So the variance is not for the patio, but the decks that you see.
No, but there's a landscape. There's a landscape variance. That's
right.
So I was just looking at the hard surface coverage and just wondered if there's any opportunity to improve that.
So there's two things there. One, the concrete walkway that you see on the left side of the page there, that's actually an access to the basement unit. You're correct. This dwelling provides 2 units. And then there's the concrete patio to the right that comes off of the deck as a landing. In terms of the variance for the landscaping, from our perspective, the variance is actually, sorry, just to take a step back. So the purpose of the variance was to allow for the existing shed. As you can see on that site plan, there's 2 previous sheds that existed. They're shown in a dashed line, and the current shed is shown hatched. The new shed actually is the consolidation of those two sheds, and it's something that the current owner inherited. And the square footage of the consolidated shed is generally aligned with the previous sheds, and those were removed because they were essentially caving in. And so if you look at the supplementary materials in the photos, it shows the condition of those two sheds. So from our perspective, the variance isn't changing the amount of landscaped area. It's simply recognizing something that was there before. And we know from comparisons in the neighborhood that the lot coverage of the shed, while it's less than the 50% at 37%, it actually, even if we had maintained the existing condition of the lot and had a compliant shed, would still require a variance. So we are not changing the soft landscaping requirement in that sense. And we also know that part of the requirement for the rear yard landscaping is tied to the lot frontage. So for this particular lot, it has a lot frontage of 7.6 meters. That's triggering the need for 50%. If it was a 6-meter wide lot, it would have only required 25% rear landscaping. And we know in the area that there have been variances approved that vary between 19 to 43% for rear landscaping. So we feel that this is consistent with what we're seeing in the neighborhood. We're recognizing an existing condition, and we're not further reducing the landscaping that's there now.
Okay, so the patio stones then in front of in the picture in your submission, those are going to be removed, and that's going to be soft landscaping there?
Along the sides of the...
No, the front. I'm just looking at your drawing and then looking at the photograph, photo number 4. Are those concrete pavers remaining as well?
No, that can be changed to soft landscaping as it's shown in the drawing. At the time that this picture was taken, there was some renovations happening to the interior of the house, so that can be improved if required.
Well, I'm just going by what your plan. I'm just looking at what your plan shows. That shows that as soft landscaping. So you're asking us to consider it in that instance. So thanks for the submissions with respect to the history of the property and the comparables. Thank you.
Carl?
I'm going to try the same question again. On the same drawing where it says concrete patio and concrete walkway, are they existing?
Yes.
Are they paving stones or is it poured concrete?
I believe it's poured concrete. I don't think we have a photo that shows that.
What I believe my colleague was exploring was whether there was any opportunity for that poured concrete to be partially removed and replaced with soft landscaping, which would then change your variance. Or secondarily, if the poured concrete were removed and were replaced with interlocking permeable pavers, it wouldn't change the variance, but it certainly would allow for percolation of water. And that's very much in keeping with city's objectives about avoiding flooding. So I'm guessing, but I'm wondering if you might be open to a condition that says any future paving in the backyard is to be permeable in nature or something like that. Or that the concrete walkway and concrete patios in the back, if they are repaved, would be repaved with permeable pavers.
That's acceptable to us.
Okay, thank you.
Carl, do you want to make a motion?
Actually, I bowed to Joanne because it was her issue and I agree with her.
Okay.
Okay, I'll go ahead. Based on the plan showing the area between the shed and the fence, separating the outdoor areas for the 2 units, seeing that shown as sodded, I would move a motion to approve the application, and I would add the condition noted by my colleague that if the hardscape of the existing concrete walkway and existing concrete patio are to be replaced, they should be replaced with permeable pavers.
Okay, seconder, Carl?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, all in favor? You have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 26, 40 Thelma Avenue. Purpose of the application is to construct a new 3-story building with a front integral garage, rear ground floor deck, a front porch, and a rear 3rd-story balcony. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. Mr. Wengel.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Richard Wengel, 102 Avenue Road, Toronto.
Good afternoon. I don't think we need your elegant presentation today because it's a very minor application. So, panel, do you have any questions? Joanne?
Just to ensure, this is an additional variance on top of the previous variances that has come up either as a result of something that was missed or a design change?
Yes, that's correct. There was an internal den space that has now been requested to become a bedroom because of a growing family. Just happened recently, and because of that, we do require a window to satisfy the building code. So in order to call it a bedroom, we have to add a window, and with that, we'd have to provide a fire shutter because of the unprotected opening to satisfy the Ontario Building Code.
Okay, thank you.
Have to do.
Thank you.
All right. So any other questions, comments? Do we have a motion? Yes. Joanne?
I'd move a motion to approve the application. I think what's being requested in this context and the broader context of what's been previously approved is minor and meets the test. No conditions.
Right. Seconder, Carl, all in favor? Have your approval. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wengel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, number 27, 148 LINSMORE CRESCENT. Purpose of this application to alter the existing 2-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear 1-story addition. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, and we have support from 150 LINSMORE CRESCENT. Shajidul Islam.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we've somehow lost the agent, and we're trying to contact him right now.
Okay. He was here.
At the tone, please record your message. When you are finished recording,
through you, Mr. Chair, the owners are present. We're still trying to contact the agent.
Okay. So can we speak to the owners?
Ms. Hyland, you've been unmuted.
Hello? Try him again. Ms. Hyland?
Ms. Hyland, please unmute yourself. Hi, Mr. Tomlinson, are you there?
Hi, sorry everyone. I apologize for the confusion. My name is Ryan Tomlinson, and I live at 148 LINSMORE, Toronto, and I am the homeowner.
All right, so, Mr. Tomlinson, we apparently can't get a hold of your agent. I don't know whether he was, I think he was here, but we sort of lost him. Are you, I don't believe we're going to ask for a presentation, so are you comfortable going ahead without your agent?
No, we're completely comfortable. There must have been some communication error. I had indicated in an email or two to the committee, not the committee, but perhaps the assistant taking applications that I was going to represent ourselves anyways.
Okay.
So yeah, we're good.
All right. So there's only one other person in, someone in support. So I don't think we need a presentation unless that person turns out to be in opposition, but I think we should find out first. So do you have anything you want to say before I go to the next speaker?
No, I don't. Unless there's questions, I can answer them.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, panel? No questions. Karen Orr?
Mr. Chairman, I had one quick question.
Yes?
I wondered if you could identify whether or not the attached homeowner at 146 is in support. We don't have anything from him or her, and because it's a semi, I'd like to know if they're supportive.
Mr. Tomlinson? Did we lose him?
Sorry, I'm now available to talk. We don't have anything in writing from them, but we could reach out to them and have them provide it if necessary.
No, but did you speak to them, and are they in support or are they opposed?
Oh no, we've had conversations with them. They're well aware of what we're proposing to do, and they were not they were supportive of it. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Can we go to Karen Orr, please?
Hi, my name is Karen Orr. I am a neighbor. I live at 153 LINSMORE Crescent, but I'm in support.
Okay, thank you very much. So we can now go into committee. Do you have any?
Just a question, Chair, before we go into committee, the applicant, if you wouldn't mind.
No, I was going to ask you if you had any questions.
Looking at the site plan, there's a reference to an area in the rear yard. It says proposed interlocking. Given the soft landscaping issues, are you planning traditional interlocking, or can you introduce permeable pavers for that portion? Hello?
Mr. Tomlinson?
Yep, just waiting for the mute. No, we can introduce permeable pavers without any issue at all.
Good, thank you.
Okay. So, Lisa?
Thank you. I was just wondering, curious what the current lot coverage is. Doesn't look like a very large addition, so I wasn't sure.
The current lot coverage has not been provided on the site plan stats.
Oh yeah, okay, so you don't know what that is then.
I don't know what it is, but to put it into context, if you allow me, what we're asking for is essentially an additional 50 square feet from what is existing.
Okay, that's what it looked like.
Okay.
It didn't look like a lot, but I was just wondering, you must be already over for coverage with the garage and anyway, okay, that helps. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Carl.
I don't know why this is, but on my site plan, I don't have the proposed interlocking statement that is shown on the one on the screen. What does it refer to? What area?
There's a little area in the rear just adjacent to where the proposed addition is. I'm looking for the number of the drawing. It's A100 I'm looking at, Carl.
I've got the drawing, but that isn't on my, it just didn't come through on mine. So is it in that little rectangle behind the house?
That's right.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so Larry, you want to make a motion?
Sure, Chair, thank you. I'm happy to move a motion. I think this is a minor variance, sorry, a minor addition. The variances in total are quite small. And I think that the proposed work fits in well with the neighborhood and the community. I'll move approval subject to the condition that the proposed interlocking area shown on the site plan A100 is replaced with Permanville pavers.
Seconder, Carl, all in favor? You have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 28, 699A Craven Road. The purpose of the application is to alter the existing two-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear one-story addition with a rear covered ground floor porch. In addition, to install a new ground-mounted air conditioning device within the north side yard of the property. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, correspondence from planning, a report from urban forestry, and 8 form letters in support. Natalia Yatsenko.
Hi, yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Natalia of Carpenter and Associates. I'm the applicant for the application, and my address is 505 Unit 3, York Boulevard in Hamilton.
Okay, so I don't think we need a presentation. Do you have anything to say to the panel before we take it into committee?
Yes, I would actually like to clarify variance 3 for the AC unit has been removed. We have relocated it into the backyard, so we no longer require that variance.
Okay, thank you.
That would actually be the planning email correspondence, I believe.
Okay. All right, panel, do you have any questions, comments? Somebody have a motion? Joanne?
I would like to move to approve the amended application subject to the planning conditions. And as I believe that what the remaining variances are indeed minor and not out of character with the neighborhood. And I would just note with the removal of variance number 3, we might wish to amend the purpose.
Yeah.
Believe this forestry condition 2 as well, Joanne?
Good catch, Carl. Thank you. Forestry condition number 2.
Okay, so Carl, are you seconding the motion as amended?
Yes.
Okay, all
Yes.
in favor? Have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 29, 2413 Dundas Street West. The purpose of the application is to alter the existing 2-story semi-detached mixed-use building by constructing a rear 3-story addition which will contain 4 residential dwelling units. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant and opposition from Chelsea, Prince Rupert, Glen Lake, and that's it, but lots. Mr. Kotsopoulos.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Jim Kotsopoulos, 2027 Field Flower Crescent, and I am acting on behalf of the owner, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we need you to give us a presentation because you have opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before you, we are requesting a total of 3 variances to facilitate this proposed extension to the rear of the property. The first one involves the setback to the west side of the laneway from 7.5 meters to 4.74. We also, Mr. Chair, are eliminating the need for 1 parking spot. And then the third one, Mr. Chair, would be the inclusion of ground floor commercial use with the residential above. And since in this case, Mr. Chair, there's already an existing ground floor commercial on the existing portion, we are asking that the entire addition be of residential purposes. Mr. Chair, just a couple primary points of interest in this instance. The proposed addition represents transit supportive densities. We are within 400 meters from the Dundas West subway station. We're within 500 meters from the UP Express Bloor GO station. The proposal, albeit in a modest form, Mr. Chair, will noticeably assist the provision of a much needed housing form that is currently under a crisis situation within both the City of Toronto and province-wide. The property, Mr. Chair, is located at the periphery of the community along the west side of Dundas, which is an arterial road directly opposite a commercial center. As such, Mr. Chair, it is our opinion, if we're not able to locate this type of proposed housing unit on this location, then where else can we actually locate such a needed housing form? The proposed building massing, Mr. Chair, is of a similar or even the same scale that has recently been approved and facilitated on a property just to the north of the subject lands, specifically number 2459 Dundas Street. And if you want to get a good indication, Mr. Chair, of what that would look like, then you can take a look at 2459 Dundas Street and you'll get an indication in terms of the building massing. Mr. Chair, as you've alluded to, we received some letters of objection from properties that do not have any Dundas Street property addresses. These letters of objections, Mr. Chair, are from those properties that are anywhere from 30 meters to 250 meters removed from the subject lands. And all of them, Mr. Chair, would have intervening dwelling units between them and the subject property. So for those reasons, Mr. Chair, and I'll be glad to elaborate further clarifications, we feel that the application before you merits support and approval by the Committee of Adjustment. Thank you.
Any questions, panel? Carl?
Yes, I'd like to refer to the plans. Just 1 second and I'll get the right one. The basement floor plan. I just want to make sure that I have this clear. The basement unit does not have any direct exposure to the outside and is the only natural light coming into that unit, the light that spills down the staircase on the balcony?
That is correct to you, Mr. Chair.
So it's like a skylight over the, well, except there's a staircase over it, but that's the only natural light for that unit.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa?
Yeah, just in terms of the example you gave on Dundas, 2459 Dundas, you said was of similar
massing.
Massing. Can you confirm, I think I read in one of the objection letters that that proposal does not extend as far back into the laneway or to the rear of the property as this proposal? Is that true, or how does it work?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. Are you talking about the extent of the west wall and the addition? Is that what you're asking?
Well, you've asked for a variance to that it be 4.75 meters from a lot in an R zone, the first
Correct.
variance, and it's supposed to be 7.5 meters. Isn't that because it's being built right up to the edge of the lot, like to the lane?
Correct.
And
In alignment with the property to the north and to the south, abutting properties to the north and to the south. Correct.
You gave 2459 Dundas as an example of something that would have similar massing, and it looks like that proposal doesn't extend that far back. Is that correct?
That's correct. Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. That is
Doesn't come as
correct.
close to the lane. Okay.
Correct. That is correct.
Okay, because I thought I read that in an objection letter, and also you can see that on when you look on Google. So I was just curious if it had changed since then or not. But okay, thank you.
Larry, you had a question?
Sort of a similar question with respect to the example cited. I'm just looking at it now. So your proposal is going to be roughly the same height as 2459?
That is correct to you, Mr. Chair.
And can you build on this portion of Dundas? I'm assuming because we don't have a variance for height that you can build 4 stories as of right?
That is correct through you, Mr. Chair, through the zoning review.
That's great. Thank you.
All right, so let us move to David Clark.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, I'm David Clark. I live at 9 Prince Rupert Avenue. So I back onto the laneway. I'm west of the property. When I do a measurement, I'm less than 20 meters from where the property will be, not the minimum of 30 as he indicated. I would point out that the 2 adjoining properties to his are only 2 stories high, and there is a setback on the 2nd story for both of those units, where this developer is proposing 3 stories straight up. I do agree that 2459 may have the similar height, but it has room at the back for parking of a car, so that the building is set back sufficiently from the laneway. And you know, as I stand out in my backyard in the morning, I get sunlight coming in and look up going, well, a 3-story building right there is going to block my sunlight in my backyard. The existing buildings to the north and south have balconies or seating area at the back. We have people sitting out there and they make comments about what we're doing in our backyard, which to me means that they're looking at what we're doing, and that's sort of an invasion of our privacy in our backyard. And my fear is that now we're going to put another one up there and we're going to have the same thing. So, you know, I think my understanding of the 7.5 meters is to provide a separation from a residential zone to the commercial zone. And I think it's reasonable that we hold that separation. And I think the fact that the 2 adjoining properties were allowed to build up to the laneway does not mean that it's right for this one to do the same thing. And I think you need to respect the homeowners in the area who are concerned about these large buildings going up and us losing the privacy and some of the light that we get into our backyard. Other complaints is, how are you going to dig out to a basement? Where's the dumpster going? Is it going to go in the laneway that people walk up and down and drive up and down?
Right,
That's the access of cars.
Mr. Clark, the construction issues are not our mandate.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. But that's what I had for the variances.
All right. Thank you. Any questions, panel? Right, let's move on to Bennett Mills.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
My name is Bennett Mills. I live at 7 Prince Rupert Avenue, Toronto, Ontario. I have owned this home for approximately 20 years, and my home backs almost immediately onto the proposed building site. My house, in fact, does back directly onto the previous presenter's comment about our neighbors who are on the 2nd floor balconies, who make very unwelcome comments and catcalls to us from those balconies. So you can understand the privacy issues that we have. So I have a number of issues, though, with this. I mean, obviously, we're following the avenue study, and the buildings we need intensification. We need taller buildings. But in this case, if that building goes as tall as it is proposed, it will have a direct sight line right into my yard, and which means I'll probably have more of exactly what I've experienced for the last many number of years. It'll also shadow approximately 9 properties, which is something to be said. I'd also like to point out that we initiated a change.org petition against this, and right now, I believe I supplied the link to that petition, and we are currently at 38 supporters. So again, I believe that if they change the use of this apartment from 1 unit to 5 residential units, it will create a busier, noisier location. It will eliminate our privacy almost completely. And again, the precedent that was set up the street that the applicant referred to is set significantly back from the laneway. Again, there are two properties on either side of this applicant's site that both have second floor balconies. Clearly, that is already proven on one of them to be a problem. The second one that was more recently built actually backs onto the side of another house. So it doesn't directly back onto a house, onto the back of another house. So that is a different situation. And I am also concerned that if they do fully occupy this as a residential unit, changing the zoning, that there's potential that that could potentially bring in 12 people with cars to park on the residential streets surrounding, which we're already at a capacity for parking. We don't have room for that. So I think that, again, the zoning, the zoning for changing to residential, the unacceptable overlook, as you can see, I did submit a photo of that balcony from my backyard, and you can see, although it was taken with my phone, so the quality might not be great, and it might also appear to be further away than it is. But as I'm talking to you, I'm 30 feet from that balcony, sitting in my kitchen, and I can see the brand of the barbecue that they have out there on their deck. So I can tell you that we're really close. So again, unfortunately for the applicant, he may be getting the wrath of some people who've been suffering from bad neighbors there for many years. But at the same time, our situation is that we don't want our neighborhood to be any further destabilized. And I really believe that this is going to have a negative result on the overall neighborhood. We cannot afford to have any less privacy. And like I said, all the things that we love about our neighborhood, the fact that we have great neighbors, we have light, we have space, and I recognize that the city is growing, but I don't think that we can allow it to grow in such a way that we basically create corridors for us all to live in.
Thank you, sir. Margaret Zalar.
Through you, Mr. Chair, she's not on the line. I tried to contact her through email and phone, but couldn't reach.
Okay, Barbara Gordon.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. Yes, my name is Barbara Gordon. I live at 16 Prince Rupert Avenue, which is the street that is one west of Dundas West. So there are intervening homes between me and this property. But I will say at the outset, I am a YIMBY. I believe in density properly done within the city, but emphasis on properly done, following the avenue studies that took such time and care to design. So absolutely density to a point. My two main worries about this proposal are the parking situation. I understood that there were going to be no parking spaces, and the developer said he eliminated the need for one parking space. So I may not be right. Our situation on Prince Rupert Avenue and in the surrounding area is, as Bennett says, we are at capacity. And one of my contentions is that City Hall should stop insisting that new developments provide parking if the development is cheek by jowl with a transit hub, which indeed we are. So that's my parking concern. And I am very sympathetic to the privacy concerns of the people who are living across the alley from this proposed site. Those are my main thoughts on the subject.
Thank you. Mr. Katsopoulos?
Parking. Thank you, Mr. Chair. In terms of the parking, Mr. Chair, we, according to the zoning review, we would require the elimination of one parking space. And we are in a very transit supportive area in terms of the densities that could go in here. Short walk distance to the subway station, to the GO station. And just a quick clarification, Mr. Chair, we're talking about the setback to the west side of the lane. And yes, we are asking from 7.5 to 4.75. However, Mr. Chair, based on the submitted plans, the setback is measured from the extreme west wall. If you can keep going down, keep going. Mr. Chair, there, yeah, stop there. Mr. Chair, you could see the, and I wanted to address here no, if you can go, sorry, the next one, which is the extension. Okay. Mr. Chair, the setback is measured from the edge of the west wall where the stairs are, but the primary wall of the unit itself, as you can see, is set back further to the east, almost 2 meters, right there, exactly. And you could also see, Mr. Chair, we're talking about the privacy issue. You could see that the area at the rear where the stairwell and the balcony, it's a 3-sided box. You could see the wing wall along the north and the wing wall along the south. So, Mr. Chair, if a person were standing there, they'll be looking directly west, not to the north or to the south. They would literally have to dangle themselves over in order to be able to view the properties to the north or to the south. I'm talking about westerly. So this is a further restriction, Mr. Chair, in terms of any potential overviews. So those will be my answers, Mr. Chair, in terms of what I heard from the neighbors.
So is that an exterior staircase?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so is the area surrounding the staircase more or less to access the staircase, or is it a balcony of some sort?
It's a little bit of both, Mr. Chair. It's a little bit of both.
It's not, it doesn't look like something where you set up a dining table and chairs, etc.
Exactly, sir. That I was just going to add that.
Yeah, Carl?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify something that was said, which might be misunderstood by the people listening. You basically, the applicant indicated that you were told that you had to remove one parking space. I don't believe that's accurate. I think what you meant to say was that your variance requests approval to not provide one parking space. Nobody has told you you have to remove a parking space. Am I correct?
Mr. Chair, yes, that is correct. Sorry. Yes, we're asking to eliminate the need for a parking space.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's take it into committee unless someone has a question. Any comments? Yes, Carl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am having read the submissions and listened to them again today. I have concerns with variance number 1. I can see no justification for it. It exacerbates what could potentially be overlooked problems to make them worse. And notwithstanding the fact that there are stairways on the balconies, they are still balconies and outdoor. That's the only outdoor living space these units have. And in one case, there isn't even outdoor light. It's the light that comes down through a stairway. I would argue that the basement unit is bordering on not being habitable. I also question one of the appellants questioned whether or not refuse could be collected. I don't know how that could happen. I don't know how the building can be serviced with municipal services like garbage, fire, and so forth. So I have great difficulty with variance number 1, and at this point, I don't see any reason to support it.
Larry?
Yeah, so this, location-wise, is exactly the sorts of places we should be looking to intensify and provide rental. This is indeed not only a walk between the up and subway and streetcar service, but it's also walkable to the junction and retail strip along Bloor. Having said that, I too have great difficulty with pushing a 3-story building right back to the edge of the laneway, and significant overlook issues with respect to adjacent neighbors. I think I'd love to see this come back with a more sympathetic design to the neighborhood, because I do think this is an area that would benefit from additional rental. It's perfect for additional rental accommodation, but I can't support it given the juxtaposition of a 3-story building with balconies overlooking into adjacent neighbors' backyards. And so I can't support it as this is currently constructed.
Any other comments? Yes, Joanne?
I would agree with my colleagues' comments. I think there is an opportunity to reimagine this space, because I agree with what Larry said. I think that there's certainly an opportunity here. Great location. I just think the overlook with the proximity of the rear wall and the overlook to the properties in the rear, I can't get past. But I do think there's an opportunity to reimagine this and come up with something that might be more suitable.
So I see this a little differently. I see that outdoor staircase, and on the bottom floors, it's actually 2 staircases, one going up and one going down. There's very little area for people to sit out or dine out or whatever you do. We had one of those. This is an old-fashioned way to construct a staircase. We had that in our apartment above the store when I was a kid. And the only thing we used the porch for, aside from going up and down the stairs, was my mother put out her dill pickles to be made in a vat. So I don't think it's really an area to sit out or anything. I see it as an outdoor space that allows the developer to put in a reasonable sized apartment, because if these stairs had to be inside, I don't know how large the apartments are, but I assume that a staircase indoors would compromise the apartments. So I agree with Larry. This is the kind of development we need in the area. Rental housing, probably not too expensive, and close to transportation. So yeah, it would be nicer if it could be a little further away from the R district. But I don't think there's going to be lookout, and that's what the neighbors are complaining, is lookout. They're not complaining that this area, as I understand it, they're not complaining that they're oppressed because the building or the stairs are too close to them. And it's not a building at that point, it's just a staircase. And the building, as the agent said, is set back from there a reasonable distance. So I don't think this is as bad a development as we think you think it is. So I will be supporting this application. So we need someone to make a motion. Carl?
Mr. Chairman, for the reasons that were mentioned by my two colleagues, I'm going to move an application to deny approval for this application. I would like to encourage the applicant to, as has been suggested by all of us, to rethink a more compatible and sensitive solution, because it is a good location for increased density. But on this application, I'm moving denial of approval.
All right, do we have a seconder? Larry, all in favor of the motion to deny the application? All right, 4, and I'm voting to approve the application, 4-1. Okay, application is denied. Moving on to number 39A, Hiawatha Road. Purpose of the application is to alter the existing building by constructing a rear 2-story addition, a rear 3rd-story addition, and a rear ground floor deck. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, and we have 3 form letters in support. Osren Stambuk.
Hi, yes, this is Osren Stambuk. I am at 15 Moreland Road, or maybe 1410 DuPont Street, depending on if the address change was caught.
Okay. So I don't think, sir, we need a presentation from you. Do you have anything to say before I take it to the panel?
Yes, just really quickly, that I feel that this is a textbook case of really good development, and I'm really happy with what we have proposed here.
Okay, thank you. All right, panel, do you have any questions or comments? Do we have a motion? Carl?
Mr. Chairman, unless my colleagues have any concerns, I'd like to move a motion of approval. I think this is a sensitive application. It's increasing density, but it's doing it in a very sensitive way. It's preserving the existing street frontage. I think the only thing you'd notice is the addition of some skylights, but you won't notice any massing changes. And the massing at the back is articulated effectively as well to reduce mass. It steps back like a wedding cake. All in all, I think the architectural solution, the massing, melds nicely within the community. I don't believe there's anything about the proposal that generates difficulties for adjacent properties, and we don't have any agencies recommending conditions and no objections from abutting neighbors. So I'd like to move approval without condition.
Do we have a seconder? Joanne, all in favor? You have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 31, 94 Glebeholme Boulevard. Purpose of the application to alter the existing 2-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a new enclosed front porch with new stairs. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. We have correspondence from planning and 3 form letters in support. Mr. Papp?
Yes, sir. Hello. Good afternoon. My name is Greg Papp from the Robinson Group at 90 Thorncliffe Park Drive in Toronto, and I am the agent for the owners.
Okay, Mr. Papp, I don't think we need a presentation in this matter. Do you have anything to say to the panel before we take it into committee?
No, but I would be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Panel, any questions, comments, or do we have a motion? Lisa?
Thank you. I think in my view, this one is very straightforward application. They're enclosing the front porch and new stairs. You know, I noted they're building within the footprint. There were other enclosed porches in the area, and I even believe adjacent neighbors were fine with it. I don't know if anybody has any comments, but if not, I would like to bring forward a motion for approval. In my view, it meets the 4 tests, and it would be subject to the conditions set out in the planning memo with respect to the front yard setback being limited to the 1-story porch enclosure. and it was in accordance with plans.
All right, do we have a seconder? Joanne? Okay, all in favor? Have your approval, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Number 32, 6 Whitaker Avenue. Purpose of the application to construct a rear detached garage with a rooftop deck. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant and correspondence in opposition from 699 Adelaide Street West. Mr. Trotter.
Yep, Andy Trotter, 81 St. Clarence Avenue, agent designer. Yep.
All right,
Okay, let's unmute the room.
You can do it now. Okay, there you go.
Can we? No, not yet. Can we unmute? Testing, testing. Can you hear us from the committee room now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Do we still have the people on the line?
Yeah, our attendees are still here, right? You two up and running again? I didn't stop it. Yeah, okay. Because I came. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so where's Larry? There he is. Okay. Okay, so we're at 6 Whitaker Avenue before we were so rudely interrupted. Mr. Trotter, we spoke to him and told him that we didn't need a presentation. So, and I'm not sure, but I thought Joanne was making some comment. No?
I have a question. I have a question I can ask.
Okay.
Can you just, Mr. Trotter, could you just give us your comments in response to the letter of concern from 699 Adelaide with respect to the clearance in the lane?
Well, first of all, just to be clear, the application stated that there would be the rooftop deck, and we did provide a zoning notice with the one variance for the 0.62 meter setback, I believe it is, or 0.61 meter, which is exactly the same as the house. And she's concerned about the turning radius that's actually on the north end of the garage, which is there is no variance for. It's well on the homeowner's property. So transportation had no problem with it. Planning's had no problem with it. I don't really understand what the issue is. I mean, she has the angled off corner of the garage to allow space into still on her property. So I don't think people are allowed to drive on her property. I think that she's I think it's well designed for the driving. I drive in there and can go around the corner without going on her property. So I don't really see what the issue is,
Thank you. I just wondered because from the drawings, it seems to be that there's adequate clearance. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so good. Carl?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, what we were discussing just before we broke off was Larry was asking the same question I was going to ask, and that is the purpose of the application includes a rooftop deck, and Mr. Trotter had indicated that the rooftop deck has been removed, so it's no longer part of the application. We should probably change the purpose of the application, and then we got cut off.
Well, that's the only purpose of the application is a new rooftop deck. So, Mr. Trotter, what's the purpose of the application?
Is the garage, and
Pardon
it's
me.
just for a garage. That's it, with just the roof and nothing above on the roof. This was made clear to the COA with the new zoning notice. So I was surprised that the notice was sent out with the rooftop deck because well before the notice was sent out to the neighbors, we had changed our application. So yeah, so to be 100% clear, this is just for a garage. That will be on the east side. We'll have the same setback as the house. There won't be anything above or beside it, just a garage. That's it. Yeah.
Okay, we'll change the purpose of the application then.
Mm.
All right, do we have any further questions or comments, or do we have a motion? Joanne?
I'd like to make the motion to approve the application with the amended purpose. I believe this is truly minor. There's no impacts and meets the 4 tests. No conditions.
Carl, you seconded. All in favor?
Yes.
You have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Number 33, 18 Cedar Avenue. Purpose of the application: to alter the existing detached garage in the rear yard by constructing a new rooftop deck with stairs. So this is what I was referring to. So we have material submitted by the applicant, and we have a report from planning. And we have Justin McCartney on the line.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, Justin McCartney. I'm the applicant and homeowner at 18 Cedar Avenue, Toronto, M4E1K2.
Okay, Mr.
And I will be
McCartney,
representing myself.
I don't believe we need a presentation from you. Do you want to say anything to the panel before we take it into committee?
No, I am happy to answer any questions and just to provide any information in terms of all the similar ones around my property that match this.
Thank you. Lisa?
Thank you. I noticed this obviously had been to committee before, and I believe that there was condition that the rooftop, the carport could not be used as a deck. So you're back here applying for basically similar thing. What has changed in the interim? Like, I feel like this has already been before the committee, so I'm not sure,
Yeah,
can you explain why you're back?
Yeah, the last time I came with my representative, you're correct. There was an issue that was brought up with some of the variances around I think it was the bylaw around the upper deck. And kind of on the spot, I was just asked if we were open to removing it before it went to committee. So we did. The structure was still built as originally designed in terms of live load and the footings to be able to sustain that. The only thing that's changed in the interim is there's been more, and granted, maybe they weren't done through committee or legally, I can't speak to that, but there's been a few more decks created in my area, a laneway house literally just up the street, and a few other raised decks off of the back of some of the second stories of the homes. And so I just wanted to try again, as nobody around me speaks against it. So and that's right on my street, and these all these other ones are in my alley.
So are these new ones you said since you've been to committee the last time?
I believe the second one there is new. There's another one that I think was done in 2013. The one you're looking at right here, I believe. At least that's when it was built. I don't know when they applied. It was 2000. No, it was just before 2015 when it was built. And the other ones were original from when I got there. And then there should be another picture providing some of the raised decks that have been built kind of adjacent to my home. I don't know if it's in a separate document. That might be it. Yeah, that was always there, but then there's some other ones on the other side in the distance. The one in the distance was just built. So, and then that's my next door neighbor. And the other thing that's changed is just the neighbors have moved out. A couple of younger families have moved in, and they're quite open to it.
So, yes, Carl.
Mr. Chairman, I find this application confusing. Like Lisa, I noticed the previous decision, which is very explicit, that the roof may not be used for a deck. And it seems to me that we're back here revisiting exactly the same argument. Two of the panel members from that past decision are sitting on this panel. So it's sort of 3 against 2. It's odd. I don't know that we should be hearing this. The other thing that confuses me is the planning department memo tends to indicate that the idea of rooftop decks is a bad idea. It should never be approved. And yet, as the applicant has indicated, they seem to exist in many locations quite close by, and they seem to be relatively new. I'm assuming that all this was debated when this matter was before committee before, and I personally would be very uncomfortable voting against a previous committee decision when I don't frankly see anything that's changed.
Well, when I saw this and I read the application, I read the material, and then I saw that I had turned it down, and Lisa had approved it, and I thought Lisa was right. I didn't know why I turned it down. I don't see anything really objectionable, but then you read the a report about overlook and stuff. I don't know. But it doesn't seem to me that anything on the particular application has changed, except that some people put up rooftop decks, and whether they did so with approval or not, I don't know. So I agree with Carl. I'm a little uncomfortable revisiting this matter.
Well, just to be clear as well, I mean, I may have dissented on the decision, but it does not necessarily mean I was in favor of the rooftop deck at that time. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Joanne?
Yeah, just wondered whether or not, I mean, some of the pictures like on Willow seem to be grade changes on those properties, and the deck on top of the garage might actually be a deck that's just a continuation of the rear yard. Having said that, however, the picture that's shown of the deck on the carport at 17 Cedar Avenue, does the applicant know whether or not that there was an application for a variance for that? Because that seems like a relatively fresh build.
Yeah, that was actually 128 Willow. It lined up improperly. That's just down the alley from me. I believe that whole house was done via building permit. It was Peter McKay's house at the time, so I can only assume so. But yeah, I mean, we kind of got the idea from that house, and all that's really changed in our household is our family's grown by 3 kids, and we're just kind of trying to grab a little bit more outdoor space.
Do you have a yard?
We have a very, very tiny yard. It's not even a yard. It's permeable pavers with kind of a place to put a barbecue and a table. Our hope is to kind of move, like put a 3/4 deck up there with some green space and add a little bit of storage in terms of like a place for the pillows and the chairs and everything. And then use the space below for, you know, playing basketball with the kids. That's all we're trying to grab here.
So if you do what you propose, the backyard would be primarily paved. Do you have a landscape variance then as a result of that? Have you shared? You're going to have to, where they're going to play basketball, you're going to have paving.
It's not paving. It's pavers. It's permeable. It's paving stones. It used to be interlock, and it got pulled out, and permeable paving stones went in.
Okay, but permeable pavers are not, permeable pavers under the bylaw are not accepted as soft landscaping. So I would just, I just like to raise the concern that well, it sounds to me like you would need a landscape variance that I'm not sure if that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess you would know more than me, obviously, but it's always kind of been interlock and hardscaping in that space in the back.
But it says here, variance number 4 says you're going to have 42.05% maintained as soft landscaping. So if it's already in existence or you're going to do it, I mean, 42.05 is not bad out of 50. So I don't.
Yeah.
I don't find it, I have no idea why I turned it down last time. So, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, this was turned down one time. I don't see any real, it doesn't seem to be any real change on the site. Are we allowed to revisit?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's what's before you today, so you'll have to make that determination.
Well, Joanne?
I think on the balance of what's been submitted in terms of photographic demonstration that this is not unprecedented built form in the area, I feel I can support the application.
Larry?
Yeah, I find myself sympathetic to the applicant, in part because he's essentially being penalized where his neighbors are in similar situations, and whether legally or illegally are enjoying the benefits of what he's trying to achieve on his property. I do note that variance 3 talks, I mean, to the point about looking at other ones, we don't know because it looks like it provides for rooftop decks if the grade change, if there isn't a substantial grade change. For example, if the carport or garage is lower than the backyard, the presumption is that perhaps that would be allowed. Again, I find myself a little bit conflicted just because, you know, I don't want necessarily to offend, you know, the recommendation from city staff, but I am sympathetic to the homeowner. I think it's a reasonable request, and I'm assuming that there's screening around the deck. Is there?
Yes, there's privacy. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, privacy screening.
Yeah. So I'm kind of leaning towards Joanne's view that it doesn't seem unreasonable. I mean, we always look at these things in context, and the context for this area would suggest that this is a fairly common type of development, and it doesn't seem unreasonable given what's there already. You know, the contrary would be, you know, you'd go back and, you know, require some of those folks who didn't do it properly to remove it, and I don't know if that's necessarily in our best interest either. So I'm kind of leaning towards being supportive.
Yeah, let somebody make a motion. Larry, go ahead.
Sure, I'll get me in trouble with planning staff, Chair. I will move approval of this application. I don't believe there are any conditions, but I want to make sure that the deck is screened. So I'll put a condition in that the deck is screened on all sides.
Okay, seconder, Joanne, all in favor? Okay, all opposed? 3-2.
I'm not opposed. I'm dissenting. I'm uncomfortable with this whole concept. If you don't like the decision, you can come back and hopefully get a different panel and a different decision. So I'm dissenting on this one.
I would agree with you, except that I refused it the last time, and I don't know why. If it was you, Carl, that had refused it, I might respect your opinion and not vote in favor of it, but I like this application, and I'm going to vote for it. Okay, so you have your approval, sir, 3-2. Okay, the 3411 Sheridan Avenue. Purpose of the application is to alter the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a partial third-story addition and a three-story rear addition with a rear third-story balcony. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, correspondence and support from property on Florence, and five form letters in support from properties on Sheridan and Gordon, and correspondence and concern from 32 Florence Street. Mr. Alpome.
Hello, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Alex Alpoim, and I am the owner and applicant for 11 Sheridan Avenue.
Okay, could you, you have some opposition, so could you tell us about this application?
Sure. So my fiance and I purchased this house in February of 2021 with the intention of renovating into our forever home. We both grew up in the city, and being able to purchase our first home here was a dream come true. Our home was built in the late 1800s, and improvements have been few and far between over the years. Our proposed renovation will give us the space we need to have a family in the city. We're here today with support of many of our neighbors and are requesting relief from the zoning bylaw 569 to facilitate the construction of our third story and rear addition. We are aware we received comments submitted by residents of 32 Sheridan Street, and we have directly responded to the residents to address their questions and concerns. I believe most of their concerns are related with construction activities. I think they just want to ensure that their access is not impacted by us doing construction. Construction will be maintained within our property.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Savi.
Oh, hi. Hey, hi, how you doing? Yes, I think I know the gentleman. I think he's grown up in the neighborhood for sure.
Yeah,
If I'm
right. Could you tell us your name and your address, please?
Yeah, I'm Ricardo Rodriguez, and I'm at 32 Florence, and my husband is William Sovey, and he's unable to be here. We have certain concerns because when there's been construction in that area, we've had our garage.
Sir, are your concerns about construction or about the variances that are requested?
Oh, well,
we have no jurisdiction over construction.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Yeah, no, you've said that. I've been here 3 hours and I've heard you so many times. But yeah, no, there's definitely a concern with privacy because there's going to be a 3-story there. But no, I just wanted to say publicly that I thank you for the letter, and I like to maybe Alex, you come by 32, give me his phone number sometime, because if something happens, I like to just be able to talk to them. I think it's great that they're a nice family, young family, want to make a home there. Hope we have good neighbors, and wish them luck. But yeah, I have a little bit of concerns with the privacy matters, that having a third story. I don't know the implications of that, but other than that, I think it's fine.
Okay,
so,
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Alpoim, you have anything to say about privacy in the third story?
Build form is pretty consistent throughout the neighborhood. Just across the street from 32 Florence is a new townhouse development that is 3 stories in height with a doghouse above and a terrace above. I know Mr. Ricardo asked to specify the distance from the rear addition to the rear property line. The separation is 16.8 meters to the rear property line. And then with the distance of the laneway, it is another 3.2 meters, giving for a total of 20 meters in separation from the rear addition to Ricardo's property. And just up the street, a few houses north at 27 Sheridan, they just recently completed a 3rd story addition as well. And just around the corner at 19 Gordon Street, very similar as well, they've added additional living space by adding a 3-story addition, which was also approved a few years ago through a minor variance application.
All right, thank you. Panel, do we have any further questions? What happened to all of us? Where's Carl and Lisa?
Lisa texted me she lost her internet connection.
Oh, and Carl? Oh,
I
there he is.
I just came back. I lost, you froze. So I didn't, I just had Dawn and you were frozen and I didn't have any audio. And I just monkeyed around and got
Here
it
we
to
go.
come back. It's happened twice today.
I'm back too, but I missed the entire presentation, so I don't
So
know
did I.
what application we're on, but anyway.
We're on 3411 Sheridan Avenue.
So as to not hold things up, is it
I'm gonna
reason, I'm not
abstain.
going to vote on this one. Is that going to create a problem? Because I didn't hear the presentation either.
No.
I'm in the same situation.
Okay, so Larry and Joanne, you have to make a motion, and the three of us constitute a quorum.
Can I just ask a question, Chair, beforehand?
Sure.
I do notice that there's a third floor balcony off the rear, and looks like from the plans it's clear. So I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to. It looks like it's an actual deck, not a Juliet. So to the applicant, would you be okay with putting privacy screening around that balcony?
Yes, no problem with that.
Okay. If that's the case, then Chair, I'm happy to move approval of this application. I think it's reasonable. It is a very tight urban fabric in that area. Not much opportunity to expand homes, and other than going up, all the neighbors seem to be comfortable with this application. So I move approval subject to the condition that the third floor rear balcony be screened with privacy screening.
You second that, Joanne? Okay, all in favor? All right, you have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, just a minute. Yeah, number 35, 8 Wellesley Street East. Purpose of the application is to permit an increase to the maximum permitted gross floor area for restaurant uses within the existing 11-story mixed-use building. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. Haley McWilliam.
Afternoon, my name is Haley McWilliam. I'm a planner with Bousfields Planning Consultants, and my address is 3 Church Street.
Okay, I don't think we're going to need a presentation. So do you have anything to say to the panel before we take it into committee?
Nope, just happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Okay, panel, any questions, comments? Carl?
Mr. Chairman, this is an extremely active urban corner. I think increasing the amount of floor space available to restaurant uses is quite consistent with the activity existing in the area, and also reinforces what the official plan objectives were for active streetscapes. I have no difficulty at all, unless my colleagues have a problem in recommending approval without conditions.
Okay, so is that your motion? Joanne?
Yes.
Are you seconding the motion? Okay, all in favor? You have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 36, 241 Margueretta Street. Purpose of the application to alter the existing 2-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a new front porch, a new second-story front bay window, as well as a 2-story rear addition with a rear ground floor deck. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant and support, 3 form letters in support. Mr. Galbraith. Mr. Galbraith, we can't hear you. Do you have him?
Mr. Campbell, can you hear us? Mr. Campbell, can you hear us?
Mr. Galbraith?
Testing. There we go.
Okay, so.
Hello.
Can we have your name and your address?
Sean Galbraith. I'm a planner here on behalf of the application, 18 King Street East, Unit 1400.
Okay, so I don't think we need a presentation from you. Do you have anything to say to the panel before we go into committee?
Just that it's almost identical to 243 Margueretta, which I was here on a few months ago.
And was it approved?
It was.
Oh.
This is actually slightly, I think slightly less than that one, or very similar. It's I think the smallest FSI on the street and the second smallest building depth.
Okay. All right.
Happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right. Any questions, panel? Okay. Comments? We have a motion. Carl?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move approval of the application. These are extremely minor variances, as noted, and as Mr. Galbraith indicated, the adjacent attached semi has got an approval for renovations that are almost a mirror of what we have before us today. Clearly, there is no negative implications for the proposal or for the variances. I'd like to move approval without condition.
All right. Larry, you second the motion. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, number 37, 155 McLean Avenue. Purpose of the application is to alter the existing two-story. Hello? All right, to alter the existing two-story detached dwelling by constructing a two-story rear addition with a rear ground floor deck and a new front canopy above the existing front porch, also to construct an ancillary structure, a hot tub, in the rear yard of the property. With this application, we have materials submitted by the applicant, correspondence in support from 153, and 4 form letters in support, and opposition from, 153. So I don't, which was the day before. Correspondence and support came from 153, so I don't know where they stand. All right, in any event, Mr. Higgins.
Peter Higgins of Peter Higgins Architect Incorporated, 69 Ellis Drive, Toronto, Mary 4W 2 Bob 2, 2B2.
Okay, Mr.
It's been a long day for everyone.
Yeah.
We'll get through this quickly. What we have before you is a young family who's lived in the neighborhood and on the street for many years, and their children are growing up, and they'd like to give them each a bedroom. So we have a modest rear addition, 2 stories above grade, 1 story below grade, to give them the space they need. We're in I'm looking at the drawings, I suppose you are too. Built in line with the existing side walls, and certainly nowhere near as long as we could build, nor as deep as we could build. And that's partly out of concern for neighbors, but also because we're trying to access a rear garage that is to remain in place. Because their backyard is quite heavily treed and there's quite a slope up to the east, for many years the family has used the front porch as their outdoor sitting area off their living room, and they have presently a covered porch that is about 1.5 feet shallower, and they would like to cover the entire front porch so that they can sit out in the rain. There's a beautiful view across the street and down one of the adjacent streets. So really it's well worth having a front porch that's of a certain size that the whole family of 4 can sit together and enjoy their front yard. They are up on a bit of a hill. MACLEAN is sloped from north to south, and they are afforded nice privacy from the sidewalk because of that elevated position. We have spoken to many of the adjacent neighbors, both my firm and the clients. We have the 5 letters of support. I believe 153 to the immediate south had opposed in what I would call a fairly mild opposition letter, stating their concerns about their garden and privacy and shadowing. And I'd have to say that we're replacing what is an existing front deck covered that had in the photographs would show it, a second floor balcony that my clients have agreed that they don't need that anymore. It's more of a privacy matter for everyone in the street. So they're changing that present second floor balcony to a sloped roof. Thank you very much. And that sloped roof would match the neighboring houses on either side. And there would be no privacy overlook from the second floor to any of the neighbors surrounding them. I think this proposal is appropriate in my opinion, and we've tried to design it so that it has minimum impact on the surrounding neighbors.
All right, thank you. Any questions, Mr. Higgins? Oh, okay. Let us go to Wayne Somerville.
If you are satisfied with your message, press 1. To listen to your message, press 2. To erase.
He's not on the line. He's not available.
He's not on the line?
No.
Has he been on the line?
No.
No?
No. I tried to contact, but couldn't
Okay.
reach.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, you have 153 in opposition, but in the added material, 153 withdrew their opposition?
Yeah, no,
You
I
were-
saw that. I saw that. I said they were in opposition, and I said a day later they repented.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I have a moment?
Who's this, Mr. Higgins?
It is. It's Peter Higgins again, sir.
Yes.
I was just going to say that my clients have been in touch with Mr. Somerville, and I understand that his concern was that we put out in our typical neighbors package that went to about 15 different properties that the coverage was, well, I was referring to the wrong zoning. The street to the east and the neighborhood beyond that has a 0.6 zoning regulation, and this area is 0.35. And I thought to myself, this is the first time I've ever seen density go down, but I was incorrect. And I tried to explain that to the client so that he could put that information to Mr. Somerville. We weren't trying to do anything other than make the argument that the proposed coverage at 0.64 was quite reasonable, given that the prior zoning was 0.6, and I'm incorrect there. However, at 0.64 times coverage, we are well within what has been granted for these smaller lots in the neighborhood. There's many, many examples all around. So I think that could be why Mr. Somerville was going to call.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, panel, do you have any questions, comments? Do we have a motion? Yes, Joanne?
Thank you. I think what's being proposed here, it will not result in a form that's out of context with the neighborhood. A little bit concerned with respect to the variance for the hot tub, but when I look at the plan and I see the fence and the hedging and then the hot tub, I think that from a safety perspective, I'm satisfied from there. So if my colleagues have no comment, I move a motion to approve the application with no conditions.
Do we have a seconder? Lisa, all in favor?
Hello.
You have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much and have a good evening.
All right.
You've been at it a long time.
Yep, thank you.
Good night.
Number 38, 90 SUMACH Street, Unit 312. The purpose of the application is to alter the existing apartment building by constructing a new balcony. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, and we have a report from planning, and we have correspondence and opposition from 3 properties on Shooter and 1 property on SUMACH Street. Costa Pavio.
Hi there. Hi there, how are you?
We have an echo, sir.
Oh, okay. Do you still have an echo?
No.
Oh, this is not gonna work. Okay, let's call you from
okay.
From a phone number right now. I have my client with me, sorry. We're just getting in now.
Okay, we can hear you. So are you on and ready to go?
Yes, you're gonna have to switch to the other, to the 15 number, John Malevers. And you can. Everyone hear me? Hello? Okay. We're still. Okay. Hello. I think that's better. Oh, okay. So thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of you. So we had gone through the process of PPR, then zoning. We received a permit, finished.
Yeah, Mr. Pavlu, can we, if that's who it is, could we have your name and your address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Costa Pavlu. I am the owner of Sky Space Green Roofs. Our address is 50 Carroll Street.
Okay, so we need a presentation because you have opposition.
Yes. So we'd like to begin with that we were issued a permit. We finished construction and then we received a cease and desist letter. So our permit was suspended. And when we had originally designed this space, you know, our design intent was to clearly, you know, respect our neighbors. And by doing so, by creating a privacy planter that was 45 inches in height with thick, with dense planting, blocking all north views. So that that essentially that we built a west-facing balcony, and so we received approvals from the board and management of 90 SUMACH. We did not receive any opposition from the residents above. We also feel that, you know, Tretham Court and Regent Park have undergone immense changes since 1994, and that this type of construction is in line with the city's paradigm shift and, you know, the development that is going on. So we are aware of our opposing letters, and with all due respect, we just wanted to say that the residents who are opposing this construction are quite far, at least 100 meters from the actual from our actual unit. Sorry, 100 feet from our actual unit, and so and it's very difficult to see each other. So the residents living across it, directly adjacent to us, we did not receive any opposition from them. They were actually quite helpful and supportive of this type of construction. But also, I mean, I know you guys are aware of this. You know, this was a bylaw, 1994 bylaw that kind of, I guess, was forgotten, was in kind of the city's coffers, and was pulled up after the fact, after, you know, we built this project. So our project is now completely finished, and, you know, we're kind of in like this weird spot. So I'm here to, you know, I'm open for any questions that you might have.
Okay, any questions, panel? Yes, Larry?
Yeah, sure. Just to the applicant, are you the first unit to construct a rooftop terrace on this development?
Yes, in that area. Yeah.
Sorry, Chair, I can't make out what they're saying.
Yeah, we lost.
We have a west exposure. Yes, we do. We have a west exposure.
So
I didn't catch your answer at all. You were all broken up.
he said they have
Sorry,
a
yes,
west
we are.
exposure. Mr. Pavlou, Mr. Clay asked you whether you're the first one to construct a balcony or a rooftop terrace on this apartment. Mr. Pavlou?
Yeah, can you hear me?
No, now we're not on that, they're on the
Yeah, I may go. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
I don't know why we're having all these problems. Yes, we are the first to construct a balcony in that, yes, on the 3rd floor. But we're separate from everybody else because the elevator shaft is separating us. A stairwell and the elevator shaft. So we are west facing.
And there was reference in one of the letters, I'm sure we'll hear, about an OMB hearing. Is it your view that OMB hearing, what you're proposing, does not offend the decision from that OMB hearing?
I didn't understand.
There's one of the letters in opposition made reference to an OMB hearing with respect to this overall development, and there were some prohibitions that were laid out by the board. I'm just asking whether it's your view that you are not in violation of the board decision with respect to that development.
No, we are not in violation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Carl?
To the applicant, my understanding, and I'd have to dig it out, but it's in the objection letters, was similar to Mr. Clay, that there was an OMB hearing, and the OMB was very specific and said that there would be no balconies on the north face of this building. That being the OMB's direction, this application would appear to be in violation of the OMB hearing. Do you dispute that? Because I'd just like that would be interesting to know.
Yes, I would dispute that because, you know, our permit was issued for construction, and, you know, we did a preliminary project review, and then we went through zoning. We received our permit. We built the project, and then and we wrote this letter. So this was after the fact.
You weren't advised that there shouldn't be balconies on the north face of the building. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. We received the cease and desist letter because apparently the city had, found this 1994 bylaw after the fact, after our permit was issued.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Bill Eady?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, Bill Eady. I live at 455 Shooter Street. I'm opposed to this variance application for the following reasons. 90 Sumac condo has lots of shared outdoor amenity space on the south side of the building, as well as on the 7th floor rooftop. The zoning bylaw requires the 7th floor rooftop areas to be set back 5 meters from the north edge of the roof. And that's the reason why the 7th floor rooftop space has never caused any noise or overlook problems. 90 Sumac was built in 1957 as a warehouse, and the building is only 1.3 meters from the north property line. To convert the building to condos, the developer knew that privacy, noise, and overlook of nearby homes would be a big issue. To mitigate this, the developer spent a lot of money to remove 6.6 meters off the north side of 90 Sumac from all floors except the first floor, where the 2 levels of parking were built. This significant and expensive demolition happened in 1998 and created the parking garage roof on the north side. Preserving this 6.6 meter setback on the north side and preventing any use of this buffer space is the reason why there's 3 different sections of the bylaw, each of which prohibit any use of the parking garage roof. The outdoor amenity space on the 7th floor rooftop is 29 meters above grade, and as per the zoning bylaw, it has to be set back a minimum of 13 meters from the north property line. This new terrace on the parking garage roof is significantly closer to Shooter Street homes. It's only 7 meters above grade, and it's less than 2 meters from the property line. This clearly violates the general intent of the zoning bylaw. The new terrace that's mentioned in the application was constructed in August, September 2021. There was no prior notice of this plan given to the residents. And as soon as it became evident that construction was starting, we made calls to 311 and asked why the zoning bylaw was being violated.
Okay.
Sorry. I just wanted to say that I live 7 properties to the east of the patio, about 40 meters, and I was frequently woken up by late night noise from Unit 312's terrace. The noise travels very easily because their terrace is 7 meters above grade. None of the built form of 90 Sumac or the surrounding houses has changed since the 1994 zoning bylaw. Maintaining the setback on the north side of the building, which means prohibiting any use of the parking garage, is crucial to maintain adequate privacy and noise and overlook problems that are experienced by the surrounding houses. For these reasons, I do not think the zoning request is a minor variance, and in my mind, it would not maintain the intent and purpose of the bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa, do you have a question?
I just wanted to make just to confirm. I just had a little bit of internet difficulty at the beginning of that presentation, but I believe he said that neighbor said that clarified that the OMB decision prohibited the balcony in this location. Is that where we started from?
Yes, the OMB decision prohibited any use of the parking garage roof on the north side.
Okay, that's what I thought, and you had repeated it, but I just want to make sure that is what you were saying at the beginning. Thank you.
All right, any further questions? Okay. Gail Campbell?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, can we have your name and your address, please?
My name is Gail Campbell. I live at 441 Shooter.
All right, can we have your concerns or your objections?
I'm echoing Bill Eady's concerns about the overlook. We are directly behind that patio. They have endeavored to create some privacy with the treed area. However, there still is a noise carry through as all the houses back onto a laneway, and there's no exit for noise. The other concern is partying people and things going over the balcony onto the laneway, which would be going over the balcony onto parked cars, mine being one, my two neighbors being the other two. And there are 3 wooden, old-built garages. So if anybody flicks a cigarette butt over that balcony, God knows what could happen. So the other big issue is we don't want to set a precedent for this balcony for other people interested in building similar balconies on the north side. We've spent a lot of time, money on lawyers and energy with the Shooter Street residents to ensure that we had complete privacy on the north side, given how close we are to proximity to this building.
Okay.
Saying all that, they did do a lovely job. Green Space did a really good job on it. It's just if it had been on the 7th floor, as Bill had mentioned, I think we would be a lot less concerned than where it is now, and its proximity to our house, to our cars, and to the wooden garages.
Okay, Ms. Campbell, thank you. Mr. Pavlu?
I also have my client here, John Malevers, who would like to say something as well.
Hi. I've heard the concerns from the residents on Shooter. I want to again reiterate that there's no plans with the management. Like the space that we have is unique because the rest of the north side where the garage juts out from, we're separated from that. So we in fact have a west facing terrace, and we specifically put the almost 4-foot planter box, which is 3 feet deep in width, in that space to provide privacy, because we don't want to overlook into the Shooter Street residents' houses, and we don't want them to, we want our privacy as well. If you could see the before and after, when we didn't have the terrace there, I had a much clearer view of their back of their houses, their backyards, and their houses than I do now. What we've done so far is provide a lot more privacy for everybody involved. With regards to noise, again, I can't comment on that. We were away for July and August as this was being done. It was finished mid-September. We did have one birthday there. But again, we live downtown I've been in this unit for 15 years, and for 15 years, I can hear noise from all the residents along Shooter, the park across where all the kids go to party, right across from us on the Sackville residents. This is part of living in Toronto. With regards to anything being thrown off the balconies, I can't comment on that. I'm a 52-year-old man. I'm not having ragers at my place. Again, we're right off of Shooter. There's a lot of people that wander around in those back areas. Homeless people sometimes who drink and leave their sleeping bags and that kind of thing. So I can't really, I'm not too sure why I would be blamed for that. Because that's definitely not something that would be going on in our terrace.
But in regards to the OMB of 1994, the entire area has changed significantly, and I mean there are terraces on the Shooter properties. So, I mean,
when you do from our building is from SUMAC to Sackville, and it runs right behind Shooter. Along Shooter between Sackville and Sumac, there's 18 balconies overlooking into that are off of houses along that strip that overlook into each other's yards. There's not, I don't know how else to describe it, but there's 18 on that small strip coming off of people's houses.
Are you aware that there's a staff report regarding this project in the dossier? Yeah, okay.
Are you asking the committee?
I'm asking if you are aware of this report regarding this project.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
See, when we
can't hear
received the permit January of 2021. We received the permit in January of 2021. We thought we'd done everything by the book. Based on our plans, there was a lot of going back and forth, which cost to handle. When we got this cease on our permit in November, we had meetings with the permit people plus with city planning, and we were very, we explained we're done the terrace, and they explained this is what we have to do at this point. But I wouldn't have put $1. Again, I thought I had done everything right by the books. I wouldn't have put $1 into this project, the permit. And here's where we are today. It's sort of, it's a situation that I'm not used to because I like to do everything by the book.
Yes, okay. Panel, do you have any questions? Okay, thank you, sir. All right, we'll take it into committee. Comments, questions, a motion, Carl?
Mr. Chairman, I have a lot of trouble with this application. I don't think I've ever spent so much time ruminating about an application. I think the OMB was very clear. They said there was to be no balconies on the north side of the building. This is a balcony, it's on the north side of the building. I have sympathy for the applicant, however, because he was allowed to proceed to spend money and to do much of the work before he was advised that there was a bylaw requirement that prohibited the balcony. So I have sympathy for him, but I also want to respect the OMB decision. I then looked at the planning department report, and basically the planning department has said if you put vegetative screening along the north edge of the balcony, then they would consider that to be acceptable. The only way I can interpret that is that with substantial screening on the north edge of the balcony, the planning department would deem the deck to actually be west facing rather than north facing. So I'm just sharing with you the fact that I have concerns on both sides of this. It's not an easy application. I think the work that's been done in isolation is lovely. It's a beautiful deck, but the OMB was extremely clear. There was to be no balconies on the north side, and I haven't heard anything that would, to me, suggest that we should go against that decision, even though it unfortunately puts the applicant at some disadvantage.
So I think that this is different than a lot of our other applications, which are a variance to a general zoning bylaw. This is an application for a variance to a specific zoning bylaw that was either negotiated or litigated before the OMB, and it's essentially a private zoning bylaw, specifically, as it says, site-specific to this particular location, and I think that the residents of Shooter are entitled to the benefit of that decision. Even now, after this many years, I agree with Carl that it's unfortunate for the owner of the apartment to have gone ahead and constructed this thing through no fault of his own, but unfortunately, the loss has to fall on someone. And this time it happens to be that owner, as far as I'm concerned, because he's in breach of this site-specific bylaw through no fault of his own, but he is. Larry?
Yeah, I agree with both of you. On the surface of it, I'm not sure this is an unsupportable application, but I think you're right, Chair. This is a very specific decision that the board made, and I don't think we as a panel are in a position legally or otherwise. We don't have any legal advice on its application here. I just don't feel as a panel member that I have sufficient information available to me to be able to make a decision which would be in contravention to the board hearing. I would rarely say this, but it's likely that if, for example, we chose not to approve this, that this would likely get appealed to TLAB, where it might provide a better forum for a discussion about the legal propriety of this, given the board's decision, or even further beyond that. I hate bumping things up, but I think an appeal tribunal would be in a better position to consider the merits relative to the OMB decision. So a long-winded way to say I agree with both of you.
Right. Any further comments? Yes, Joanne?
I agree with what my colleagues say, and the only thing I think may have changed, as the applicant spoke to, is some of the new built form that is actually on Shooter Street on the south side, where the applicant said there may be some balconies on the rear there, and whether or not they have, is a third floor balcony and a second floor balcony similar. But I think that the decision was so specific, and I haven't seen sufficient demonstration of changed circumstances that would lead me to say that they would have been sufficiently different decision.
Right. Lisa, did you want to say something?
I just completely agree with all the other comments. I'm not going to add anything further to that, so that's all.
Okay. Carl, did you want to make a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, regrettably, I'd like to move a motion, or I am moving a motion, that the application be denied.
All right, seconder, Larry, all in favor? Your application is denied. Number 39, 19 Borden Street. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2.5-story townhouse dwelling by constructing a rear 2-story addition and a rear 3rd-story addition. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant and support from Harvard Village Residents Association. Mr. Galbraith.
Hello again.
Hello. So your name and your address for the record again.
Sean Galbraith, planner here on behalf of the application, 18 King Street East, Unit 1400.
Okay, so panel, do we need a presentation? There's no opposition, so we don't need a presentation, Mr. Galbraith.
Okay.
Is there anything you want to say to the panel before we go into committee?
No, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Any comments or motion? Yes, Lisa.
Thank you. The material was very clear in terms of what happened between the two hearings, and since the deferral, sounds like the Harvard Village Ratepayers Association has been satisfied. There were issues, I understand, relating to the carport that was existing on the property, but that's being removed. In terms of the variances before us, I feel that the proposed addition at the 2-story and the 3rd story are both reasonable. I did note when I was reviewing all the materials that the existing MSI is 1.23, so they're requesting 1.37. It's not, you know, a huge addition, and it steps back at the back. So I think this is a reasonable application. I don't know if anybody wants to add anything else, but I'm happy to bring a motion forward for approval of the application without any conditions.
Right. Do we have a seconder? Carl, all in favor? Have your approval. Thank you. Number 40, 974 Victoria Park Avenue. Purpose of this application is to construct a new two-story detached dwelling with a rear ground floor deck, two front second floor Juliet balconies, and an undersized parking space along the south side of the lot. The existing one-story detached dwelling will be demolished. With this application, we have materials submitted by the applicant. We have correspondence from Transportation and Urban Forestry, one form letter in support and opposition from Victoria Park and Brenton, and a 46 signature petition in opposition from owners of properties on Victoria Park, Don Ora, Brenton, and Megan Avenue. Ms. T.J. Chikura.
Very close, Mr. Chair. Thank you. It's TJ Secura from Design Plan Services, here to present information to you on this application.
All right, so there is opposition, so could you give us, did you give us your address, sir?
Yes, sir. Design Plan Services, 900 The East Mall, Suite 300, Toronto, Ontario, M9B 6K2.
Okay, so can you give us a presentation, because there is some opposition?
Yes, sir.
Chair, may I ask a question first? Just in terms of clarity, there was quite some difference between the site statistics, then the agenda, then some revisions in the supplementary material. Could you possibly take us through the notice just so we're all clear on what the final variances you're asking for?
Through you, Mr. Chair, absolutely. That was going to be the first part of my presentation, was just to clarify the 5 variances that are in front of you, and I will actually be modifying one of the variances. They will be modified to match the most recent zoning review, which we received on the 25th of April, which is only 2 days ago. So I'm going to extend my apologies to the committee that this information is coming at such a late date, but it is on a zoning notice from the City of Toronto, and we got it as quickly as we could based on changes made to try and resolve and satisfy some resident concerns. So the variances in front of you, number 1 is the maximum permitted lot coverage is 35% of the lot area. The lot coverage will be 41.58%, and that is indicated on the latest zoning review. So that is a reduction from the public notice.
So we need, sir, we also need the square meters.
Sure. So the new, 41.58% is 127.41 square meters.
Thank you.
The other variances remain the same. The 4 out of the 5 that are in front of you on the screen. I will note that on the zoning review, there was a rounding of variance number 2 to 7.5, but it is a 0.01 meter difference, and the building is at 7.49. So I don't see the need to amend that in an upward direction, because it's not being amended up. It's just a rounding. The other variances are the same. So one thing I would like to address first in my comments is that there were significant changes to the plans and the proposal made to specifically address comments and concerns of the neighbors. The main comments related to a 3-story building, and now it is a 2-story building. The height has been significantly reduced, not on this notice, but from the deferred notice that you would have seen prior. Also, there were 9 variances in front of you on the deferred application. There are now 5 in front of you. So variances related to Exterior stairs providing access was eliminated. The areas of the balconies were reduced to eliminate variances pertaining to the areas of the balconies. The number of stories was eliminated, and the permitted area of a platform on the roof was eliminated because there is no rooftop deck at all with this proposal anymore. There's no access to the roof, which there was in the previous plan. And that seemed to generate most of the neighbors' comments and concerns. And therefore, I would ask you to please recognize that the petition that was provided in opposition was based on the original submission and was provided in middle of February and does not reflect the revised application that is in front of you today. This was deferred twice. The first time was to revise and discuss with the neighbors. That was done. The second was due to a technical error with the notice, as the incorrect plans were attached to that notice. So there were significant revisions made from the first to the second hearing, but then from the second hearing to today, the variances remain the same, with the exception of the coverage that I just reduced in front of you right now. There are many houses in the neighborhood being renovated, approved, proposed. We did research within 500 meters and found 95 other decisions that included similar variances to what is being sought in the application in front of you today. With regards to the variances themselves, the coverage, I would note that it includes the carport. You can see on the rendering, it's right at the top of the page there. If staff could just scroll down a little bit. No. The carport roof is included in the coverage, where it does not provide a massing or footprint on the ground, although it is included in the coverage. The home alone by itself is only 38.76%, or 118.81 square meters. So the variance does have to reflect the carport roof. However, from a functional point of view, the carport roof does not provide increased massing or size of the dwelling in a way that a building itself would. The setback to the north recognizes the existing condition and is only for a portion of the length of the dwelling behind the existing portion. It is set back at 0.91 meters. So it's only that, if you can see the site plan here, above the words where it says new stone and stucco dwelling, there's that portion of the dwelling that is closer to the property line. That recognizes the existing dwelling on the property. Behind that, to the rear, it has been set back 0.91 meters. The setback to the south, being 0 meters, is to the carport roof only. The dwelling under the carport roof will be 2.74 meters setback, and the dwelling behind that, so to the west, will be 1.22 meters setback. And we do have support from the abutting neighbor to the south. And if you're familiar with the configuration of the lots in this neighborhood, the southern boundary is the rear yards of the lots to the south. It is not a side-to-side configuration.
All right, sir, your time is up. If you could wrap up, please.
Okay, sorry, sir, and I think a bit of my time was taken by amending the application. The height of the building is only 29 centimeters more than what's permitted. The interior ceiling heights are 10 feet and 9 foot, which is a normal height, and approvals in the area are at an average of 8.93 meters. The FSI is only 49 square meters more than what's permitted, and the average of the approvals in the neighborhood are 0.69 times. There's no variance for length or depth. Vic Park is a higher order transit corridor, major street, and we should be looking at intensification and redevelopment on Vic Park. We are aware of the urban forestry recommended conditions. They are standard and we have no issues. And we worked with planning to come to this proposal where they are satisfied. They emailed that satisfaction to the C of A Tech, and they provided no report raising any concerns or conditions with this application. And I'm happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Yes, Carl.
Yes, to the applicant, could you, excuse me, could you clarify the drawings that we have in our package? Do they reflect, you made reference to a number of changes. Do the drawings that we have reflect those changes?
Yes, the drawings have not changed. When the coverage changed, it was an interpretation by the zoning examiner about the area above the carport and the second floor versus the first floor, because the footprints are not the same. And so the drawings have not changed. They are the drawings that reflect the variances in front of you.
You mentioned, though, that it's now a 2-story and it was a 3-story. Presumably that was a change in a drawing somewhere.
That's correct, but that was done prior to the previous deferral of this application.
Okay.
So that was
I
the
just
original
wanna-
application.
I just want to clarify that we're looking at the right drawings. So thank you very much.
Yes.
Any further questions? Any comments? Okay, so we'll move on. Sharon Young.
Yes, this is Sharon.
Yes, we have an echo.
Yes, my apologies. Let me see what I can do. Oh, sorry.
Hello? Do we still have her?
Hi, is this better?
Yeah, we're still getting an echo.
It may be the system, Mr. Chairman, because you're echoing as well.
I know, but not with you or anybody else.
You were a minute ago. Now you're okay. You were echoing.
I know.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Sharon.
Hi, Sharon. If you're using 2 different devices to attend a hearing, you might want to try to mute one of those and only use one. Oh, she's not here.
Is she gone? All right, let's move on to the next person. See if you can get her back. But let's go on to Maria S.
Maria, me.
Hi.
Hi, it's Maria.
Okay, can we have your full name and your address, please?
It's Maria Espiritu, number 35 Brenton Street, Toronto, Ontario, M4B1E1.
Okay, can we have your objections to this project?
Yes, first of all, the petition that we send, I'm talking on behalf of my community, we send it on the April 20th. So we're petitioning for this new 2nd story, not the old one.
Yeah.
All right. My concern is my house and their backyard is like side by side. So when they build, if they can extend the house, I'm going to lose my privacy, my lack of sunlight, invasion of my privacy. I have a daycare for 0 to 5 years old kids for the past nearly 20 years, and they're in the backyard all the time. By having extending their residence and 2nd story, I don't know what I'm going to do with the kids. I can't keep them inside the house all the time. The parking is not big enough for that for their plans. If it's a big family, most of the residents are not agreeing with this zoning, and I strongly disagree for the zoning minor variance application.
So why
they also comparing 899 Victoria Park that they're building a house. That property, if they notice, they've been building for the past 4 years. I have no idea what's the problem. Comparing the houses in Pitt Avenue, that's in Scarborough, it's not in a main road, so you can't compare that. That's my concern.
Okay, so just one question.
Yes.
What is your problem with having your children in the from your daycare in the backyard?
When there's a second, and they're extending the property, right? And they can see the kids in the backyard with their bathing suits. I don't know what people can do with their with this new technology.
Okay, so you're concerned about the kids' privacy and safety?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Can we go back to Sharon Young? Do we have her?
Hello?
Ms. Young?
Yes, hi, this is Sharon Young. I'm at 957A Victoria Park Avenue. I live across from this property. I think I want to express my concern is that as several times the application has been brought forth, there's been no consultation with me. I believe other neighbors that are close to this property. And with having submitted several applications, I know the variants have been reduced, but none of it has been consulted with us. At the same time, too, is that then why is it, if you're making adjustments, that you're going exceeding against what the bylaw provides for? And as well, too, with regards to some of the comparisons of the property, I am familiar with certainly streets behind, off the main road of Victoria Park, that there are, differences or the variances approvals on those properties. However, this is Victoria Park. It is a busy road. And the part that we're on, in fact, is a one lane for each direction, where certainly north of this area, this part of Victoria Park, it does extend where there is two lanes. So it is a very narrow pathway, and it does pose concern for me how far we're extending the property to, and we're going beyond what the bylaws provide for, because it would be not normal development necessarily on this main street versus streets that are behind this main road.
Okay. Do you have anything else to say?
No, that's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Shira?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of brief comments to respond to some of the concerns raised. With regards to the height, I cannot fathom how a 49 centimeter increase in the permitted height will have any measured impact on the ability of a neighbor to use their rear yard, particularly for a daycare. If the house was reduced by 49 centimeters, it would be permitted as of right. And so any privacy or overlook concerns are ill-placed. With regards to the parking, it's not enough for a big family. This family has lived on this site for 18 years. This is their home that they're going to continue to live in. There's currently only ability to park a limited number of vehicles. So there's no issue with regards to the way they live or use or reside on this property. With regard to the comparisons in the area, I mean, Mr. Chair, the official plan is clear that you have to look at the immediate and the broader context. And when we did the half-kilometer study, finding 95 decisions for similar, if not larger variances for height and FSI, indicate that this is an area that is experiencing some modest regeneration. It's a stable residential neighborhood. And Vic Park is a major road. There is higher order transit. It's a major street as defined by the city's official plan and zoning bylaw, and therefore, in my mind, it demands some intensification and some better use, more efficient use of the land and the structure. And yeah, that's all the comments I have to say in response to some of the comments from the neighbors.
All right, thank you. Panel, do you have any questions? Okay, we have comments. We have a motion. Larry?
Yeah, I'll start. First of all, I think this application is substantially been modified from its original application status, and I think the owner should be commended for that, listening to and trying to respond to the concerns of the neighbors. I frankly didn't really sympathize with some of the concerns that were being raised by neighbors, especially about concerns about people basically peeping in on little kids. That just seemed really a bit of a stretch to me. I think the design of this application is, again, 2 stories. It is not inconsistent at all with the type of application and the type of design and the type of variances that we see right across the city and in many neighborhoods. I don't think it's out of character at all. I think the changes that have been made make it a very acceptable application. I think the variances themselves are quite minor. I'm prepared to support this application.
So, Larry, with respect to the little children, I understand the concern. I mean, I'm not sure I understand the concern, but I know there is a concern because we used to live near a daycare center, and when you walk by, my wife has become a photographer since the pandemic, and she likes to take pictures, and they won't let her take pictures. If you walk, we met a couple of teachers walking, not walking, but in strollers. They had these little kids in strollers, about 6 kids in each stroller or something. They wouldn't let her take a picture. So there's some concern among caregivers for the privacy of these children. However, if you're going to have, I think if you're going to have it in your backyard and you have adjacent neighbors, I think you're going to have to either make other arrangements or for where you're going to have your kids, or you can't have a daycare center there. I don't.
Well, I think it's unreasonable to expect that neighbors in a 2-story building, in the surrounding area, should be restricted somehow. I don't think that's unreasonable to have a 2-story dwelling in a neighborhood. I take your point, Chair, and I don't want to underestimate the importance of that issue. But I think as a reason to oppose what I think is a modest proposal, I just don't think it is appropriate.
Well, I'm not supporting her thing. I agree with you that if you're in a neighborhood, you have a house in a neighborhood, the neighbors should be able to do what's reasonable.
Right.
So,
Larry, is yours a motion?
Sure, I'm happy to move a motion unless someone has any views to the contrary, but I think this is a modest and a reasonable application, and I'm prepared to move approval subject to forestry conditions 2 and 3.
as amended, Larry.
As amended, right?
As amended, pardon me. Thank you all.
Yeah. Joanne, you second that? Sorry, Carl, I saw Joanne's.
That's good. No, that's good.
Okay. All in favor? All right, you have your approval. Thank you. Number 41. 45 Winners Circle. Purpose of the application to alter the existing 3-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a 1st-story and 2nd-story front addition. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, a report from Urban Forestry, and opposition from 43 Winners Circle. Mr. Yankovitz.
I'm on mute. Can you?
No, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Hi, my name is Rick Yankovich. I am the owner and agent for this.
So there's some opposition, so we need you to make a presentation.
Okay, a brief presentation. So this is a semi-detached home in a relatively new neighborhood. It's 22 years old. Our door and the matching neighbor's house, or mirror image neighbor's house that's attached, the front door is inset approximately 5 feet on both the main entrance floor and then on the balcony above. what we are proposing to do is to move the doors on both the main entrance or main floor and the second floor flush to the front of the house.
When you say, Mr. Yankovic, I just want to be clear. When
Yeah.
you say we, you mean you and your wife, not your neighbor?
Yes, sorry, me and my wife, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And that is adding only 4 square meters to the gross square footage, and there's no changes whatsoever to anywhere else on the property. So to be honest, I'm confused by the other 2 variances, other than the ratio of square footage to gross lot area.
Yeah, well, those are probably pre-existing conditions.
Yeah, we've lived there for 14 years, and the house hasn't changed since original construction. So
Okay, so is 43 your neighbor?
Yes.
Your attached neighbor?
Yes, we share the wall with them, yes.
Okay, so have you discussed this matter with your neighbor?
No, they don't live there. They have the home rented out, but they have in the past made many complaints about noise from our house because we have 3 teenage boys, and we just completed a major renovation last year. The only reason we didn't complete this door movement was because we've been waiting for this committee of adjustment meeting. But in that renovation, we spent over $30,000 insulating, putting sound insulation on the shared wall between the 2 homes.
Okay.
So.
All right, so Mr. Yankovic, panel, do you have any questions? Oh, Carl?
It's a very minor application, but on the 3rd floor, I'm confused by what you're doing up in the attic. I mean, it doesn't really add any space, right?
Nothing in the attic.
Oh, because the drawing seems to indicate that you're filling something in.
No, that's pointing to the floor below. That's open to below.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
All right, so let's go to Risha Mathur.
Hello, this is Reshma Mathur. I'm the owner of 43 Winter Circle. So I guess our primary concern was just regarding the duration of this project and the noise and the impact.
So Ms. Mathur, Ms. Mathur, we have no jurisdiction as a committee over the construction. So if you have construction issues, you have to deal with them elsewhere. You can talk to Mr. Yankovic personally to deal with that and try and reach some agreement. But do you have any concerns about the work he intends to do there in terms of the impact it's going to have on your place, aside from the construction?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I'm not going to come back to you, Mr. Yankovic, because there's no opposition to your variances. Panel, are there any questions or comments? Yes, Carl.
Mr. Chairman, this is an extremely minor application, and it's useful. He's gaining a few square feet of extra living space by moving a doorway out. I dare say that if you were to poll people on the street, they wouldn't even notice the difference. It clearly doesn't have any impact on anyone. The variances are minor. There's the objection from the neighbor has to do with issues that we have no control over. Based on all that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move approval of the application subject to forestry condition number 1.
Joanne, seconded. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you very much. Our agenda for today is finished at 6:54 p.m.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Sabrina.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sabrina. Thanks, Dawn.
Yep.
Thanks for the thanks to the tech experts to get us going.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, see you all again next time.